I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter,
Yeah,
it
this
seems.
is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route.
OK.
And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset by his
There was a
winning.
bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out because...
Exactly. They had turfs on the...
turfs. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 3rd of January. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Don't go outside. Stock up on food and medicine. No, it's not a horror film. These are ominous warnings from the NHS as the Arctic blast batters Britain. We're asking, is this an appropriate response to the weather, or have we all got a bit soft?
A bit soft, haven't we? Get rid of the windmills. Donald Trump launches a scathing attack on the government, saying Britain is making a very big mistake by retreating from oil and gas, as he urges Starmer to open up the North Sea. Is the president-elect right?
Meanwhile, we have...
And 17-year-old sensation Luke Littler batters Stephen Bunting 6-1 in the World Darts Championship to set up a huge final tonight against Michael van Gerwen. We're speaking to a former world champion this hour.
Now, I know that the whole country isn't glued to their phones looking at Elon Musk's Twitter X feed the whole time, still less Donald Trump's Truth social feed. But don't worry, you don't have to. We've taken the liberty of looking ourselves, and my goodness me, these two men, these two most powerful men in the most powerful country on Earth, seem rather obsessed with Britain right now.
Oh, absolutely. They are tweeting non-stop. In particular, Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of X. He is tweeting non-stop. He's massively amplifying this grooming gang scandal, for one. He's amplifying huge, loads of other stories that all paint Britain and our government in a particularly bad light.
Yes.
So I think we want to have a little bit of a debate today and ask for your opinions. Your views are already coming in on this, as to whether it's right for Elon Musk and I guess also Donald Trump to be commenting so much on British politics and our policies, to be hammering the government. Do you welcome it? You welcome it? Are they shining a light to some of the bad things in our society that are going on? Or do you think they should actually, you know, sort out their own country first?
It is a significant change from diplomatic norms. Generally, allies have this sort of unspoken rule that you don't slam domestic policies of other governments. You'd work diplomatically, you might try and influence, but my goodness me, we're in a brave new world now. All the norms of the post-war consensus seem to have been shattered into thousands of tiny shards, and a new world order is being built anew.
Yeah. I mean, loads on free speech. Elon Musk takes a keen interest in the sort of non-crime hate incidents and all of that sort of stuff. Our criminal justice system failing in certain ways. And, of course, now the grooming gang scandal and the need in his mind for a national inquiry. And also, you know, he tweeted that Jess Phillips should be in prison. So he has been tweeting all sorts of things. Do you think that that's right or not? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. But first, the headlines with Tatiana.
Emily, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. The Health Secretary says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs. His comments come after Elon Musk attacked the decision of safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Well, Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. Mr Streeting welcomed Elon Musk weighing in on the issue.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
In other news, the government has launched an independent commission to transform social care, but proposals for major reform may not be delivered for years. Health and Social Care Secretary Wes Streeting is promising to finally grasp the nettle on social care reform, with an independent commission due to begin work in April. But the commission, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, is not due to publish its final report until 2028. Social care means help for older or disabled people with day-to-day tasks like washing, dressing, medication and eating. Liberal Democrats leader Sir Ed Davey says things need to move at a faster pace.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
Elsewhere, the number of patients in hospital with flu has quadrupled in the last month, according to new NHS England data. There were 5,074 patients with flu in hospital on the 29th of December, up from 1,190 at the end of November. The new figures mean flu cases in hospital have quadrupled in just a month. The figures also showed there were 4,102 patients in hospital with flu on Christmas Day, before it rose sharply by almost a quarter. The NHS has warned that the drop in temperature across the UK, which has led to rare health alerts from the UK Health Security Agency, could lead to continued pressure on hospitals. Well, that as an amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions and could cause power cuts across much of England and Wales has been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees overnight as a week-long spell of wintry conditions hits the UK. The country has been hit by a blast of cold weather, with temperatures falling as low as -5 overnight. The UK Health Security Agency has issued cold weather health alerts for all of England and Wales. Amber alerts are already in place until the the 8th of January, meaning a rise in deaths, particularly among those aged 65 and over or with health conditions. The Met Office also forecasts cold weather in parts of Wales and rural spots in southern England, with between -4 and -5 expected. In other news, the FBI have released new images of the New Orleans attacker Shamsud Din Jabbar. The new images show Jabbar walking along a street, dressed in a light brown long coat. They've also released a photo of one of the coolers containing an improvised explosive device. Shamsud Din Jabbar's rented truck rammed into crowds in New Orleans, killing 14 and injuring dozens. The FBI believe he acted alone. Then, hours later in Las Vegas, a Tesla Cybertruck packed with gasoline canisters and large fireworks exploded in flames outside the Trump International Hotel, with the driver confirmed as an active-duty American soldier. The force also says there's no definitive link between the two attacks. In other news, Irfan Sharif, who was jailed last month for the murder of his 10-year-old daughter Sarah Sharif, has been attacked in Belmarsh prison, according to reports. He's understood to have suffered slashes to his face and body, requiring stitches. He received local care inside prison. A prison service spokesperson told reporters police are investigating an assault on a prisoner at the HMP Belmarsh on the 1st of January. Sharif and Sarah's stepmother Bainash Batul were jailed for life in December for years of horrific torture and despicable abuse that culminated in the 10-year-old's murder. The court heard that she suffered unimaginable pain, misery and anxiety as she was repeatedly beaten, burned, bitten and restrained at their family home in Surrey. And finally in sport, Luke Littler says it'll be the stuff dreams are made of if he can create history by becoming the youngest ever world darts champion. Littler beat Stephen Bunting to book his place in the final of the World Darts Championship, which takes place tonight. The 17-year-old was favourite to progress into the final for a second year running and swept 39-year-old Bunting aside to win by 6-1 at Alexandra Palace in London.
It's the stuff of dreams. Every kid, every adult, they want to pick up the trophy. But this is what you've got to do. You've got to be at the top of your games to do it. Obviously, it'd mean everything. But like I said there, win 7 sets and I'll be over the moon.
And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now it's back to Tom and Emily.
Well, it's 12:10. You're watching and listening to Good Afternoon Britain. And in case you hadn't noticed, I certainly did this morning. It's rather cold outside. So cold, in fact, that the NHS has warned us all not to go out early in the morning or late at night. So I guess you can go out in the middle of the day, as the country faces the big Arctic freeze. And they're also urging people to stock up on food and medicine supplies.
I should say that we recommend you stay inside in the middle of the day and watch Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. But this all comes as the UK Health Security Agency warns that the cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death.
Yes, well, we're joined by our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire in Glasgow and our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis in Northampton. Should we start with you, Will? Just how cold is it there? You're rubbing your hands together.
Yes, we're here in Northampton in the town centre. It's around 3 degrees, so not quite freezing temperatures now. It's bright blue, clear skies, but last night, as with most parts of the UK, there were sub-zero temperatures, and it's going to be the same tonight, and people are gearing up to what could be snow in this part of the country, as well as pretty much everywhere from central England upwards to the north of England. The Met Office have very recently just announced a amber weather alert. That means that there could be a risk of heavy snow and ice in central and northern England, and that there could be power cuts, there could be traffic disruption. They're advising not to travel unless you have to, and there's up to 30 or 40 centimetres of snow expected in most parts of England, except really the south, where they seem to be quite clear of it. There's, as well as the amber weather alert from the Met Office, there's also a public health alert for the cold weather, another amber public health alert, advising people that it could be really cold temperatures, and that's a real concern, particularly for older people, people over the age of 65, people with pre-existing health conditions. And the doctors at the public health body, the UK Health Security Agency, say that there could be a serious impact, especially for those people with health concerns. I've been speaking to a few people out here in Northampton today. The older people do seem to be a little bit more concerned about keeping warm, about making sure that their homes are nice and warm as well. Younger people seem to just think that this is January, and that's what you can expect from England. But certainly those government agencies are putting out the warnings, advising people that there could be some dangers and some disruptions.
Well, thanks very much for that, Will Hollis. We're going to zoom further north now and speak to our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. What's it like in Glasgow?
Hello, good afternoon. Well, certainly here in Glasgow, I believe not quite as bad an outlook as it is south of the border, but certainly very, very cold. In fact, some parts of Dumfries and Galloway, the mercury fell to -5 overnight. A little higher here in Glasgow, it was about -3 when I got up this morning. But it's the issue up here is that it's consistent. So this is about the third, fourth morning in a row where that temperature has been so low, and of course that builds and builds, and it makes for a very uncomfortable new year for a lot of people up here in Scotland. If you look quite far north, well, in fact, some of the train lines have been closed north of Inverness due to landslips and flooding, and ScotRail saying that, you know, transport is going to be an issue, and indeed even the Met Office jumping on as well and saying if you're planning on journeying anywhere, then think ahead and plan for extra time for those journey delays, because Scotland today just has a yellow warning for ice and snow, but a new warning for tomorrow is now extending those yellow warnings from Friday all the way through to Monday. Now, as I said, it is still quite cold here in Glasgow. It's still about 0 on the nose, and usually at GB News we like bringing you lots of opinions about people talking about the discussion of the day. Too cold for most, but you know, a special shout out to these two wonderful ladies who did take the time to stop and talk to me this morning about the rising cost of staying warm this winter.
Always a bit careful with it. I do a boost maybe a certain time of day or night, maybe for an hour, and then I turn it off, and then I get my woolly socks and stuff on just to keep warm.
I'm not too bad because I've managed to build up enough credit over the summer to cushion the winter, so I don't have the same worry about not being able to pay. But I appreciate that it is difficult for a lot of people, and I don't think it's fair. I feel that the Labour Party came in and everybody thought this would be great, you know, like there would be for the people and there would be for the people who were kind of downtrodden, but that hasn't happened, so I'm disappointed in that.
OK, well, thank you very much
now,
indeed.
Age UK Director...
Oh, sorry, please do continue.
No, I was just to say very, very quickly that obviously Age UK Director Caroline Abrahams, well, she's made the point today that this winter is really where we're going to see the effects of those cuts to the winter fuel payment, as this winter is only sure to get colder.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Tony Maguire and Will Hollis in Northampton. That's Glasgow and Northampton covered there, because this is actually a serious issue. OK, you've got the NHS with these sort of nanny statist warnings about how we all need to hunker down and collect our medicines and our food supplies and everything because of this Arctic blast. But with the winter fuel payments being taken away, there are probably a lot of pensioners out there who are wary about turning the heating on, are wary about leaving it on when they should be, really, in these kind of temperatures. You need to have it on all day, really, don't you?
Absolutely, and we've just seen this week as well the price cap go up yet again, expecting that it's going to go up next time as well. Energy is not getting cheaper, but how is the cold impacting you at home? Delighted to be joined by GB News viewer John Gearing. John, thanks so much for being with us today. Firstly, are you managing to keep warm?
Yeah, I'm fine, actually, Tom. I'm keeping warm. Usual heating is on, but My house has got double glazing. I'm fairly well sealed. So at the present moment, I'm not too bad, but it is cold outside, I have to say.
Now, I want to get on to the what you make of the old winter fuel payments being taken away from 10 million pensioners. But first, what do you make of the NHS warnings? So the NHS have issued these warnings to everyone to stay inside in the morning and the night, to make sure you've got your food supplies in and your medical supplies in. Do you think that's a good thing, or maybe a little bit nanny state gone mad?
No, I don't think that's a nanny state gone mad at all. Now, I could speak from personal experience here. 10 years, more over 10 years ago, I slipped on the snow and ice as I was travelling to work. I got caught short, disappeared up a side road behind a tree, and I slipped on the snow and ice, broke my ankle. Now, this is a warning to elderly people who are vulnerable. They must take care with snow and ice. It's not, I mean, we've been through the economic situation, but there's the practical issues that old people need to consider. And one of the problems at the moment is that the councils are running out of money. They're not dealing with a lot of the roads and pavements as they should do. And of course, you've got to remember that in the past few years, a lot of side roads are now under private control, housing associations. So pavements and pathways are not being cleared. Not being cleared of snow and ice, not being cleared of wet leaves. And so elderly people are very vulnerable, and they need to take care, need to stock up. Don't go out when it's not necessary. Stay in.
Oh, well, there you go.
It is particularly bonkers when you see a nice gritted road in front of you, and then just to the left or to the right, it's like you're in a completely different climate because nothing's been done.
Well, see, a lot of new estates and a lot of new houses are on private estates where they're having to pay a service charge, so there's an extra cost, and the work is just not being done. I mean, we know that supermarket car parks, schools and parks are all vulnerable. They're all places where they're not necessarily being cleared as regularly as they should be. Old people are going to be in danger. And I know from personal experience,
just
once
on the
you
point,
fall over and call the ambulance, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and John, just on the point of elderly people, the winter fuel payments, of course, have been taken away from up to 10 million pensioners. What kind of impact do you think that might be having on some elderly people? Do you think there's a fear of keeping that heating on?
Oh, bound to be. Absolutely bound to be, yes. I mean, they'll be cutting back somewhere, won't they? They'll have to be cutting back. Unless they've got some savings under the mattress that they can call upon, they will be cutting back, and either they'll be going short on food, or they'll be hunkering into one particular room that they can heat, and the rest of the house will be cold. It's very, very difficult for old, vulnerable people.
Yeah, really tough time. But John Gearing, thanks so much for joining us. GB News viewer, really appreciate your time and your thoughts this afternoon.
Yeah, that was the case definitely up in County Durham. A chap we spoke to who was just moving his heater from room to room, and it wasn't this cold. So I imagine it's very cold up there today. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Please do let us know how you're keeping warm. But we've got lots more coming up on today's show, including President-elect Donald Trump. Well, he's launched a scathing attack on the Labour government, saying they're making a very big mistake over the North Sea. We'll reveal all next.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
This is a topic very close to my heart. I have become fully convinced that social media, smartphones are one of the primary causes of mental health problems in children and many other serious problems beside. Lots of governments are starting to talk about this, but the Australians are well ahead in their use of legislation. What do you think about this issue?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I've got 3 young children, and I'm really concerned about... I mean, they're too young to be on social media, but I'm really concerned about what lies ahead for them. I'm not sure I support what Australia's doing, not because I don't think it's a good idea to ensure that age verification is right. I'm just not sure that the age 16 is appropriate. But that's progress. If we effectively, as I do, accept the point that we need some sort of control, then we can move to a proper debate about whether that's 16, 14, 13, whatever it may be. And of course, there are age restrictions on things like Facebook. I think from memory it is 13.
Yes,
but
it's a tick box.
But it's a tick box, so all you can do is you can just knock. If you're 11 years old, you can just predate your date of birth by 2 years, and you can get on. I think what Australia is proposing is interesting because it will stop young people, maybe without their parents' knowledge, short-circuiting the system because they're going to be asking for proper age verification and ID. That's definitely something we should do in the UK because it's enforced in the existing law. Query, is 16 the right age, Miriam?
I completely agree with it. It's something I actually said should have been done before. And I think what is good about it is that for a long time, a lot of governments have been saying that the actual social media companies should take more responsibility, but they're not going to because it hurts their bottom line. The most voracious users are younger users. So they will pledge that, oh, I'll put the tick box in, but the kid is the one who's going to actually tick the box. So doing something like this is saying that, OK, we will put in legislation that damages your bottom line. And I think it will force the hand because they've said it's only 12 months and they will reevaluate it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Well, welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. I'm not sure if you heard any of our chit-chat there. We were just talking about how you can focus on reading when you've got a phone in your hand. It's hard. You have to be disciplined.
Yeah, we've been talking about our New Year's reading lists. We'll maybe catch up on that a little bit later in the programme.
We'll reveal what we're going to be reading.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, Donald Trump has launched a scathing attack on the Labour government, saying that Britain is making a very big mistake by retreating from oil and gas, as he urged Keir Starmer to open up the North Sea.
Yes, this was all on Truth Social, his social media network, and the President-elect Trump said the UK should also get rid of their windmills, which of course is a play on wind turbines, so there you go. But Trump is absolutely right. We're decimating what could be a booming industry in this country and has been for many decades, while we're importing oil and gas from elsewhere. I mean, it would be all well and good if we could, you know, we had our energy system already shaped up to just be run on renewables, but that sadly is not the case.
Well, it's not just the fact that we've stopped exploring in the North Sea, it's also the fact that there's this windfall tax that has been ramped up by the Labour government. It was introduced actually by the Conservatives, of course, this huge, huge tax on North Sea oil and gas exploration. But then because it was a Labour policy that the Tories stole, the Labour Party still needed a political attack. So they kept saying, oh, it's not a proper windfall tax. So then when Keir Starmer gets in, he has to try and ramp it up. And it gets even worse for the businesses.
For the damage.
And what Donald Trump is talking about is firms that are packing up and leaving the North Sea, even less of our own natural resources being
and taking
developed.
their tax money with them, crucially. You know, we're not getting the benefit of all of that and the jobs as well. Well, joining us now is Senior Research Fellow at the Centre for Energy Policy and Technology at Imperial College, Malcolm Grimston. Malcolm, thank you so much. What do you make of Donald Trump's comments there? Do you think he's right?
I think we need to think very long term about the North Sea, and I haven't seen us doing that recently because, exactly as you just said, we're still going to be using very large amounts of oil and gas come 2050. And if we do follow a long-term policy that means that investment isn't going in now, which is needed to keep oil and gas flowing in 2050 or 2060, then, of course, when we get to those stages, we're going to find ourselves even more dependent on imports than we are at this moment. I don't agree with him over the wind generators. At this moment, or at least 5 minutes ago, we were getting about 40% of our electricity from wind and solar, wind producing not far short of a third. When it's up and running, wind does have a contribution to play. But electricity is not energy. We only get about a quarter to a third of our energy in the form of electricity. Most of the rest of it, direct heating, transportation, and so on. Much of that is still very much fossil fuel dominated. And if we don't produce it in this country, we're going to have to import it from somewhere else.
Well, this is the crucial thing, I think, that is often missed about net zero. It's not just about replacing the electricity generation we have today. It's actually about massively expanding the amount of electricity we produce in this country, because we're going to need to times it by, what, 2, 3, 4 times the amount of electricity producing if all of our cars are going to be electric, if everything else is going to be run with electricity.
No gas boilers.
Frankly, is there a way to do that without relying a bit more on the North Sea?
Well, a major programme of nuclear power would help. France is in a much stronger position than most European countries, both in terms of its carbon emissions, which are tiny from electricity, but also the fact that it's not dependent on those imports. But we can't do that overnight. The best time to have been building nuclear was 20 years ago. Second best time is now, but we'd have to wait for that. And in the meantime, that does mean that gas is the swing fuel when the wind isn't convenient enough to be blowing, when it's overnight. Quite often, the very coldest snaps that we're all aware of at this moment do tend to come on those very cold, still cloudless winter nights when there isn't much wind and there's no solar at all by definition. So we need, however well we're doing with renewables and hopefully new nuclear, we are going to need quite a lot of gas in particular to do this. And this idea that the world will follow our lead. In 1981, we were using 150 million tonnes of coal a year. We're down to less than 500,000 tonnes of coal a year at the moment. We've pretty much stopped using coal. In that period of time, global coal use has more than doubled. The idea that the UK is going to be the country that everybody looks to determine all of its energy policy, it's just not backed up by facts, I'm afraid.
That's one of the key points of our climate change policy, though, isn't it? The idea that if we, set an example, all these other countries will follow us, and that's the point of us going first. But it doesn't seem to be happening. We have been talking today about whether Donald Trump and the likes of Elon Musk should be butting in on UK politics, and this is one of the policies they would criticise. But also the trade unions here in this country have been. They've been saying, you know what, these are jobs that are going to be lost. This is tax revenue that's going to be lost. And where are all these jobs that we were promised when it came to a green revolution?
Yes, exactly. I mean, some jobs will appear as more renewables are manufactured, but we import most of the renewable infrastructure anyway. We haven't really got a huge manufacturing base here. Most solar panels around the world are made by forced labour in China, which is why the price was coming down. And this is where I say we don't seem to have any kind of long-term policy that puts all of these bits together in a way that will make sense in 20 or 30 years. We've got the environmental agenda, which is very important. I think climate change is a major significant threat. But at the same time, if all we do is export the production of carbon to other countries whose standards may not be as high as ours, then the global environment isn't improved by that. The global environment makes nothing out of that.
Isn't this the big risk, actually, that policy makers might have stumbled into here? You look at the countries that have been trying to reduce carbon emissions far faster than the whole world. You look at Germany, you look at the UK. We're two of the countries that have the highest energy costs now. And the weakest economies. I mean, the German economy has been in recession for most of the last 2 years. Their manufacturing output has collapsed. We don't even need to begin to talk about UK manufacturing output. I mean, we can't even build our own solar panels or, to a large extent, wind turbines either. Is the real warning, the real sort of being ahead of the pack here, that could be a warning to other countries to say, don't be like Germany, don't be like the UK, don't cripple your economy, don't do these policies. Instead of being that leader that says, look how wonderful they're doing, we should all copy them, we're going to be the canary in the coal mine.
I think that's exactly right. I think the more countries that see, particularly the German Energiewende, which has been a disaster in terms of costs, actually environmentally as well, they're still using a huge amount of coal in and the worst sort of coal, brown coal for the environment, but particularly for their economic output. Europe really depends on German hegemony in this. We need a strong German economy because we have such strong trading arrangements with Germany, and rightly so. And if the German economy catches sneezes, then the rest of Europe does catch a cold, to use the old cliche. So there's just very little by way of a coherent long-term policy looking at what's going on elsewhere in the world. And it's a kind of climate change is kind of a prisoner's dilemma. It's in everybody's interest that we all act on it.
Yeah.
But in no individual country's interest to act in it, because if the rest of the world is cutting carbon, an individual country can freeload and get the benefits. If the rest of the world isn't, then a single country cutting its carbon emissions will be cutting its own economic throat at the same time.
Yeah.
And these have to be internationally agreed decisions. And the evidence that single countries breaking the mold and running off ahead of the pack has a major significant difference to the global situation at the moment is very weak, unfortunately.
Well, Malcolm, you sound very realistic on all of this. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Malcolm Grimston. So should Donald Trump be butting in? Should the likes of Elon Musk be butting in? We're going to actually be talking to Elon Musk's father a little bit later. He's going to debate that very question, whether Elon Musk should be, having so much to say about what's going on over here, not least on things like grooming gangs. Do you welcome what he's been saying?
Yes, that's all to come, but let's get a little look at the latest news headlines now.
Tom, thank you very much. And we start this news bulletin with some breaking news that Neil Young has said he will now be playing the Glastonbury Festival, blaming an error in the information he received for him initially turning down the offer because it was, quote, under corporate control of the BBC. More on this breaking story as we get it. Well, the Health Secretary says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs. His comments come after Elon Musk attacked the decision of safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. Mr Streeting welcomed Elon Musk weighing in on the issue.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
And in some more breaking news this hour, a 7-month-old baby has died in hospital after a crash on the A1 near Grantham today as officers investigate whether the incident was linked to icy conditions. That coming from Lincolnshire Police. More on that as we get it. That's, of course, as an amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions and could cause power cuts across much of England and Wales. That's been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures expected to fall to as low as -8 degrees overnight. The country's been hit by a blast of cold weather, with temperatures falling as low as -5 overnight. The UK Health Security Agency has issued cold weather alerts for all of England and Wales. Amber alerts already in place until the 8th of January, meaning a rise in deaths, particularly among those aged 65 and over or with health conditions. The Met Office also forecast cold weather in parts of Wales and rural spots of southern England. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there are multiple warnings in force for snow and ice. Likely we could see some travel disruption as a result of the rain, snow and strong winds this weekend. But to end the week, actually lots of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure stretches across the country, bringing cold conditions, yes, but plenty of sunshine. Can't rule out some showers, particularly around coasts of Northern Ireland, some northern coasts of Wales, also some coasts of Scotland too. These could be falling as snow, mainly across hills, though we may also see some flurries to lower levels too. But for the large majority of the country, there'll be plenty of sunshine. Feeling cold though, highs only reaching around 4 to 5 Celsius across the south. Then into the evening, once again, can't rule out some showers, particularly around coastal areas, but there'll still be plenty of clear spells, but that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, likely seeing some icy stretches across parts of the north and also some frost in places too. Similar across Northern Ireland, could see some ice here. Once again, some showers around coastal areas, showers also around coasts of Wales too. But for the large majority overnight, plenty of clear spells, so likely to see some frost and also some icy stretches, particularly in northern areas. And across the south too, once again, that's where we're going to see the majority of those clear spells, so likely to see some ice by the time we reach the morning. And once again, that widespread very sharp frost, but it's likely to be a fairly bright start to Saturday, but just once again feeling very chilly. For Saturday itself, once again, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. Still can't rule out any of those showers, particularly around northern coasts, still falling as sleet and snow, once again over hills, but also to lower levels too. And then we start to see a bit of a change from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain, they're starting to fall as sleet and snow across the high ground of parts of the southwest and southern parts of Wales, leading us to an unsettled weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
Southbound on the M6, there is a lane closure and emergency repairs between Penrith at 40 to Shap at 39. Traffic is coping well. There's also a lane closure to emergency repairs on the southbound side of the M6 between Kendal at 37 through to 36, and again traffic on the move. Anti-clockwise on the M25, however, there are long delays and 2 lanes closed to emergency repairs following an accident from 24 for Potters Bar to South Limbs at junction 23. All cleared for the southbound side of the M1. Traffic returned to normal following an earlier broken down lorry at 9 through to Hemel Hempstead. Eastbound on the M27, though, there's still a lane closure on the entry slip road to junction 5 for Southampton Airport, and that is to an accident. Leave extra time for travel is the advice. And that's the very latest travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Right, good afternoon, Britain. It's 12:38. Our big question of the day, should Elon Musk butt out of UK politics, or do you actually like what he's saying? Do you enjoy his commentary? Do you think it's fair enough? Free speech? But first, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has announced a new Netflix show. Yes?
Yes, it's a new lifestyle show called With Love. It's set to premiere on the 15th of January, featuring 8 30-minute episodes. Lucky us. Let's take a look at what you could treat yourself. Well, that's With Love Meghan, which you'll soon be able to capture online, on streaming on Netflix. I'm sure it's going to be a smash hit. Here to tell us more about it is our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, will you be tuning in to With Love Meghan?
I certainly will, Tom, but it is my job to do so. So that is the reason why. That does help. I think this is basically Meghan's dream come true. If you remember, let me take you back to 2014 when she was acting in Suits and she developed this TIG lifestyle blog named after her favourite wine, which costs over £100 a bottle, I hasten to add. And it did become a relatively successful... Over £100 a bottle. Right. And
Emily's making notes.
Making notes, OK. And, yeah, she obviously then had to stop the very successful blog to become a working member of the royal family. Then we all know what happened with Megxit, and now she's free again to do what she likes. She's obviously got millions of dollars worth of this Netflix deal. And because she's now got this global fame, this global spotlight on the front pages of a number of papers in the UK this morning, I'm sure in the United States as well, everyone's talking about this series. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate into success, but it has got everyone talking.
Hang on, OK. This may have been her real dream. But her favourite anecdote, is it not, the one that she repeats on every platform that she can, is that when she was a child, she was such a feminist that she had to write to an advert to suggest that no, women shouldn't be in the kitchen all the time. Wasn't it something to that effect?
Yeah.
And now there she is, very much in her trad wife era, or her traditional wife era.
Yeah, cleaning pots and pans or something like that. I think it was a cleaning product, yes. Well, you may say that. I think she would probably argue that it's very much to do with her business venture. Remember American Riviera Orchards, which she kind of semi-launched last year, gave out 50 jars of strawberry jam to her close friends to put on their Instagram story. I think Meghan's passion is like luxury lifestyle and like hosting dinners and parties for friends rather than cooking for Prince Harry and her two children.
Her passion was feminism, helping the needy, and being humanitarian on the global stage.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Emily, because I think a lot of people are wondering, well, what is her niche? What is her passion? Because what it can't be, if this is going to be a success, is her capitalising on her royal title as the Duchess of Sussex. Now, granted, the title... But yeah, you're right. I think if she's trying to allow people into her private world, when you've got all of these elements which are clearly staged, it might be quite hard to convince the audience that this is her real life, everyday lifestyle.
Yeah, I don't mean to be mean, but the point I was trying to make is that it's all just sort of very confused, isn't it? And as you say, who is the real Meghan Markle? Is it the Meghan who just, like, wants to post pictures in nice outfits and go to nice dinners and bake cakes for the family and friends and have this luxury lifestyle? Or is it someone who wants to be the next president of the United States? Well, or does she want to do both? Be the next Martha Stewart, Nigella Lawson, and also... You know,
if the lifestyle video is what she's doing now, it sounds like she's auditioning more for First Lady. I mean, we always get the videos at Christmas time of the First Lady walking through the White House, and they've decorated it in a certain way. Melania Trump did it. Jill Biden did it. Michelle Obama. I mean, it's almost sort of filling into that role, which again, as Emily's been saying throughout this interview, it's a very sort of traditional, some might say old-fashioned family structure.
Well, it seems to be a relaunch as well. I mean, her drawing 2025 on the beach, filmed by Prince Harry and then uploaded a few days ago to her brand new separate Instagram account, @Meghan, now has at least 1.1 million followers the last time I checked this morning. This is Meghan very much relaunching her brand, I suppose. She's been relatively quiet in 2024, actually, compared to Prince Harry. So it'll be interesting to see if this is going to be Meghan's year to shine rather than Prince Harry, although it could potentially clash with Prince Harry's court case here in the United Kingdom, suing one of the newspaper groups here, where he'll be in court for, we think, 4 days. So, yeah, that could be interesting.
I just think it's so funny. I mean, I'm not saying that all feminists have to look the same, but to go from sort of making a huge thing of how much of a feminist you've been since you were the age 3 or whatever it was, to then sort of, I don't know, showing yourself as a homemaker. And I don't know.
She's got to make the bill somehow.
Quite funny, isn't it? Thank you very much, Cameron Walker. I look forward. I might have a little watch. Why not? See if I can get some tips.
Rather you than me.
Some traditional wife tips.
Well, my goodness me. Shall we move away from the shores of California to shores a little bit closer to home? If you're in search for some European winter sun, here are some of your top holiday destinations to look out for.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east, with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, there you go. Oh, a bit of summer sun, winter
is actually
sun.
bloomin' necessary this weekend, isn't it? But there's tobogganing. But there's lots more coming up on today's show. 17-year-old superstar Luke Littler could become the youngest ever darts world champion this very night. We're going to be joined by a former world champion after this.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Locals in Abingdon in Oxfordshire have signed a petition to keep the name of their local pub, and it's called The Midget. Now, this comes after a university lecturer led an 11-month campaign to change the name of the pub, and the owners, Green King, have caved in. But locals are fighting back, and GB News spoke to one resident, Leanne Thompson, for her thoughts earlier today.
I'm not feeling great about it, to be honest. You know, it's a pub that's been here for a very long time. It's called The Midget after a MG car, and they're changing it to the Roaring Raindrop, which a lot of people are not happy about. We know why they're changing it, but a lady apparently came in who was very upset at the offensive term for the name midget. But nobody here sees it as an offensive term. You don't see the midget and feel any kind of offence towards that. It's named after a car. If she was to actually come, she might actually know more about it, but apparently she's not even been into the pub. She's just heard about it and broadcasted on social media that she wanted the name changed because it's offensive, which as locals don't feel that way. It's the midget. It will always be the midget. And if you look, it's even still on Midget Close. So I don't know if they're going to change it to the Roaring Raindrop Close.
Do you know, you should walk into the Midget now and go, do you serve shorts? And just keep going on the joke. It's named after a car, the MG Midget, that was manufactured in the town of Abingdon for a while. The car was released in 1961. The boozer was built in 1974, giving huge pride to the area. It wasn't named after midgets, you know, the Snow White and the 7 vertically challenged individuals variety. It's named after a car.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just going up to 10 to 1. And do stick with us. We're going to be talking to Elon Musk's father in just a little bit about, well, his frankly, obsession with the United Kingdom. But in the meantime, the darts star Luke Littler could become the youngest ever world champion as he faces 3-time champion Michael van Gerwen tonight.
Yes, the 17-year-old was, remember, runner-up last year, and he's full of confidence heading into the final.
As soon as that winning double went in, I knew back-to-back finals. But yeah, just finish here. Speaking to you guys, it's just chill out, reset the batteries and go again tomorrow.
105 average there, some incredible finishes. When you're playing at that level, do you feel unbeatable up there?
I felt very, very confident tonight. I wouldn't say the best I felt. The best I felt was against Nathan in the quarterfinals. But I'm just glad that I'm playing with confidence.
Right, we're joined by former darts world champion Keith Deller, MBE. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. Luke has really captured the nation, hasn't he? When he came runner-up before, everyone was so behind him. He has a personality, doesn't he? But tell us what it feels like going into a championship like this.
Well, you feel like you've done the hard work by reaching the final. I always thought a semi-final is the hardest one because you want to be on that big day, the big event. And once you get to the final, you obviously look at your opponent, how well he's playing. Well, we know Littler's playing well, and also Michael van Gerwen. And then really it's a case of building the day up. I was very nervous in the morning when I woke up. As the day gets closer and the time's getting close to the big final, you start to believe in yourself and say, right, come on, let's get the job done. There's only one game to go. and you start building, yourself into hopefully winning the world title. But it's a great day. But if you lose in the final, thankfully I didn't. Then if you lose in the final, you just hate it. You can't, next day you see the player that beat you holding the trophy, doing the interviews. So it's not very nice.
Rubbish.
It must psych you out so much, because when you're competing at that level, I mean, both of these players are extraordinary darts players. And it could just come down to a little mistake, a little act of God. I mean, how much of this, at this level now, when you've got two players playing as they are, how much of this is actually chance tonight?
Sometimes you need a little bit of luck. It could be where he missed 3 darts at a double, and then you take out 136, something like that, to win the set. You think, well, I got away with that one. It could happen tonight. There could be 2 or 3 sets where the players have lost a set where they've had a chance. It happened last night with Bunting and Littler. Bunting could have won the 3rd set and had 3 at a double. Next minute, he's 3-0 down and he's in big trouble. So, yes, that does come into play. You hopefully have your doubles, because that's where it will come down to tonight. They both score heavy. Michael doesn't like being the underdog. He always said, I'm the player to beat every year. Well, Luke Littler was favourite with the bookies at the beginning, and he's still favourite tonight.
He's still
favourite.
But
I just feel that, well, he's obviously the favourite because of what he's done this year. But remember, he's playing one of the greatest of all time. He's won the tournament 3 times. He knows how to win a final. And Luke, I just hope for Luke, he doesn't just try a bit too hard. If it goes really close, say it's 5 sets all, he could tense up. It's not easy. You don't know. Sometimes you play a final, you just feel great and comfortable. Sometimes.
Just very quickly, what does it feel like to win, Keith?
It was great because obviously I had to beat the top 3 in the world, and beating Eric Bristow, who was the #1 in the world. You can't get it any better than that. And it's nice when you do exhibitions or the tournaments. Will you please welcome champion of the world? It doesn't get any better.
No, fantastic stuff. Keith Deller, MBE, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, former world darts
the best
champion.
in the world at something.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool, eh?
Not bad. Well, do stay with us. Coming up, should Elon Musk butt out of British politics, or is he talking sense? We're going to ask his dad.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there are multiple warnings in force for snow and ice. Likely we could see some travel disruption as a result of the rain, snow and strong winds this weekend. But to end the week, actually lots of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure stretches across the country, bringing cold conditions, yes, but plenty of sunshine. Can't rule out some showers, particularly around coasts of Northern Ireland, some northern coasts of Wales, also some coasts of Scotland too. These could be falling as snow, mainly across hills, though we may also see some flurries to lower levels too. But for the large majority of the country, there'll be plenty of sunshine. Feeling cold though, highs only reaching around 4 to 5 Celsius across the south. Then into the evening, once again, can't rule out some showers, particularly around coastal areas, but there'll still be plenty of clear spells. But that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, likely seeing some icy stretches across parts of the north, and also some frost in places too. Similar across Northern Ireland, could see some ice here. Once again, some showers around coastal areas, showers also around coasts of Wales too. But for the large majority overnight, plenty of clear spells, so likely to see some frost and also some icy stretches, particularly in northern areas. And across the south too, once again, that's where we're going to see the majority of those clear spells, so likely to see some ice by the time we reach the morning. And once again, that widespread very sharp frost, but it's likely to be a fairly bright start to Saturday, but just once again feeling very chilly. For Saturday itself, once again, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. Still can't rule out any of those showers, particularly around northern coasts, still falling as sleet and snow once again over hills, but also to lower levels too. And then we start to see a bit of a change from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain, they're starting to fall as sleet and snow across the high ground of parts of the southwest and southern parts of Wales, leading us to an unsettled weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever. an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Osama bin Laden issued a fatwa entitled World Front for Combat Against Jews and Crusaders, and President George W. Bush talked of a crusade on terrorism. In 2010, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sent a parcel bomb to New York. It was addressed to Reginald of Chatillon. The addressee had died at the hands of Saladin in 1187. Those facts suggest that the long history of struggle between Christendom and Islamic caliphates remains relevant, at least to some militant Islamists. That being the case, perhaps we should all understand the past. General Sir Simon Mayle, a former Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff Operations, can be our teacher, particularly if we want to know in gory detail about battles to control Jerusalem, Constantinople, Vienna and the Eastern Mediterranean. His new book is called The House of War. It's an excellent read, which perhaps ought to figure in a national adult curriculum. And he joins me. But let's begin with the word crusade. What was it that drove Christians around Europe to want to cross to the Holy Land and seize Jerusalem?
Context and timing is really important to understand. It's been rather stereotyped as Christian aggression against peace-loving Muslims. The Islamic religion had burst out of the desert in the 7th century with the death of the Prophet Muhammad, and for the next nearly 400 years had Christianity, Christendom, the Christian states absolutely on the back foot. It took the Holy Land, destroyed the Persian Empire, took the North Africa, which was Christian at the time, including Egypt, of course, took Spain all the way into Tours, Charles Martel. 100 years after the death of the Prophet, it expanded in an extraordinary state.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 3rd of January. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Don't go outside. Stock up on your food and medicine. Those are the ominous warnings from the NHS today as the Arctic blast batters Britain. We're asking if this is an appropriate response to the weather, or have we all gone a bit soft? Is this the nanny state in action?
And get rid of windmills and pump that North Sea oil and gas. Yes, Donald Trump launches a scathing attack on the British government, saying Britain is making a very big mistake on energy policy by retreating from that North Sea oil and gas. He urges the Prime Minister to open it back up in the North Sea. Is the President-elect right?
And an elongated attack on the UK should Elon Musk butt out of British politics. He seems intrigued and somewhat fascinated by events on our side of the Atlantic. But surely the world's richest man has bigger fish to fry, or do you welcome his interventions? We'll speak to his dad. Well, there's a huge amount to talk about today, isn't there, really?
No, and it all
Donald
ties
Trump
together.
and Elon Musk both sort of butting in on British politics. So they've all got lots of views. Views are plenty on this Labour government and on policy choices.
Yeah, and these policy choices feel very, very real today. Coldest day of the year so far. I feel very confident saying that because there have only been 2 days of the year so far, or 3 days.
It's freezing leaving the house this morning.
Blooming cold.
Had the ski jacket on.
And it just begs the question. I've seen the Health Secretary out and about on the television this morning saying, this is the weekend you can turn on your heating in your house. How did we get to a point as a country where we expect cabinet ministers to tell us when we can or cannot turn on our heating? Doesn't it just sort of show how energy poor
It feels a bit Soviet Union, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels a bit, you know, OK, everyone, you can do it today. Tomorrow you're going to have to be cautious about your heating, but today we're all allowed to put it on, OK? So everyone put it on together.
It just shows us how much more expensive energy is in this country compared to, for example, the United States of America. It shows us what a sort of state of relative poverty we've come when it comes to energy. I mean, we talk about whether or not the government should be giving a few £100 to people in subsidies if they're over the age of 65 or 60 or whatever it is. Why are we talking about the necessity for subsidies? Surely we should be talking about the price of the energy in the first place.
Yeah.
And energy is just too expensive.
Yeah, it is. And would opening up the North Sea and not banning exploration be the answer? Would that bring us cheaper energy? I think so. Is Donald Trump right when he says, you know, drill, baby, drill, open up that North Sea, do what you can to have your own energy security?
But is this a brave new world that we're in when we're expecting the President of the United States is wading into domestic policy decisions, whether you agree with them or not? Is it right that an ally, a country that should be an ally of the UK, is almost acting as if they're the sort of colonial masters? I mean, do we need our own 1776 moment here?
I mean, what we do know...
throw sort of the American fracked gas into the sea in Boston Harbour, Lincolnshire? Or is that getting too silly?
Well, what we do know is that Elon Musk has it in for Keir Starmer. Absolutely has it in. Non-stop tweeting. Non-stop tweeting. GBNews.com/your say. Please do get in touch. Let us know what you think about it all. But it is the headlines with Tatiana.
Emily, thank you. The top stories this hour. The Health Secretary says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs. His comments come after Elon Musk attacked the decision of safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. Mr Streeting welcomed Elon Musk weighing in on the issue.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
In other news, the government has launched an independent commission to transform social care, but proposals for major reform may not be delivered for years. Health and Social Care Secretary Wes Streeting is promising to finally grasp the nettle on social care reform, with an independent commission due to begin work in April. But the commission, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, is not due to publish its final report until 2028. Social care means help for older or disabled people with day-to-day tasks like washing, dressing, medication and eating. Liberal Democrats leader Sir Ed Davies says things need to move at a faster pace.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
Now, a baby boy was killed in a crash late last night in Lincolnshire near Grantham, and police are investigating whether that incident was linked to icy conditions. A woman also travelling in the same car suffered serious injuries, and 2 other passengers were not seriously injured. An amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions across much of England and Wales has been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees overnight. The country's been hit by a blast of cold weather, with the temperatures falling as low as -5 overnight. Amber alerts are in place until the 8th of January. Well, that's as the number of patients in hospital with flu has quadrupled in the last month, according to new NHS England data. There were 5,074 patients with flu in hospital on the 29th of December, up from 1,190 at the end of November. The new figures mean flu cases in hospital have quadrupled in just a month. The figures also showed there were 4,102 patients in hospital with flu on Christmas Day, before it rose sharply by almost a quarter. The NHS has warned that the drop in temperatures across the UK, which has led to rare health alerts from the UK Health Security Agency, could lead to continued pressure on hospitals. In other news, Irfan Sharif, who was jailed last month for the murder of his 10-year-old daughter Sarah Sharif, has been attacked in Belmarsh prison, according to reports. He's understood to have suffered slashes to his face and body, requiring stitches. He received local care inside prison. A prison service spokesperson told reporters police are investigating an assault on a prisoner at HMP Belmarsh on the 1st of January. Sharif and Sarah's stepmother, Bainash Batul, were jailed for life in December for years of horrific torture and despicable abuse that culminated in the 10-year-old's murder. The court heard that she suffered unimaginable pain, misery and anxiety as she was repeatedly bitten, burned and restrained at the family home in Surrey. And Luke Littler says it'll be the stuff dreams are made of if he can create history by becoming the youngest ever world darts champion. Littler beat Stephen Bunting to book his place in the final of the World Darts Championships taking place tonight. The 17-year-old was favourite to progress into the final for a second year running and swept 39-year-old Bunting aside to win by 6-1 at the Alexandra Palace in London. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1, and in case you haven't noticed, it's rather cold outside. Yes, so cold, in fact, that the NHS has now warned people not to go out early in the morning or late at night. The country is facing the big Arctic
Britain? It looks like
freeze.
Norway or something.
It does look rather Nordic.
Yeah.
I
It looks exactly like Norway. Maybe it is Britain. Sorry, apologies if it is, in fact.
No, let's work out where exactly it is. Actually, this is going to be fun. We'll get to that later in the programme.
Yeah, sorry if it's your hometown.
But
beautiful.
Yeah, there's a British flag there. Oh, is that HMS Victory? Is this Portsmouth?
Perhaps it is.
Anyway, we've been all told to stock up on food and medicine.
Yes, this comes as the UK Health Security Agency warns the cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death.
Well, we're joined now by the head of lifestyle economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Christopher Snowdon. Chris, thanks for joining us. Frankly, do any other countries on Earth discuss the weather quite as much as the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland?
No, I don't think they do. And I suppose in a lot of countries there's not a lot to talk about because the weather's pretty samey all year round. This is what we're experiencing at the moment, Tom, is called winter. We had it last year around the same time, you may recall, and indeed every year before that. It's a lot colder than summer. And yes, if it's very icy, then you should be careful how you walk. But I don't think we need to get too hysterical about it.
Is it bringing back the don't do anything to save the NHS kind of vibes? Harking back to the pandemic?
There is an element of, stay at home, protect the NHS about this, isn't there? The NHS seems quite keen on telling people to stay in. I like their advice. They said stay in, don't go out late at night when it's dark. Well, it gets dark about 4:30. Are they suggesting we don't go out when it's dark at all? It's dark most of the day. And I don't know if you remember last year, there was an NHS trust told people to walk like penguins. I urge you to look it up on Google if you don't recall it. It was some NHS trust. They actually showed you how to do it because it was icy on the pavements. They said, yeah, walk in little steps like a penguin. And these staff members went out and recorded a video showing how to walk like a penguin.
Yeah, looking at the headline here, waddle like a penguin. NHS shows you how to walk safely in icy condition. Very helpful, Christopher.
Or is this just a symptom of a broken healthcare system that consistently tells people to avoid having to use it because if we behaved normally in winter, it would all fall over?
Yeah, I think there's an element to that. Look, I mean, it's cold, and it's worth people knowing that it's going to be a cold snap, and it's fine for the Met Office to tell people about that. But I think once you've told people it's going to be freezing, then they can draw their own conclusions about what that actually means for them driving around and walking up and down the street. We certainly don't need, incidentally, the UK Health Security Agency doing this. You might recall Public Health England used to do all this kind of nannying stuff, telling people to open windows in summer and drink plenty of water, and in winter turn the radiators on and close the windows. You know, and one of the reasons it was closed down a few years ago is because it was focusing on this trivia rather than getting on with the job of, for example, preparing for a pandemic. And so it was effectively split into two. The UK Health Security Agency is supposed to be the bit preparing for a pandemic and doing the serious stuff, whereas the nannying stuff is meant to be done by the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities. So it's interesting that it's not the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities coming up with this advice. It is the supposedly serious half of the Public Health Agency, which suggests to me that they're already getting distracted.
One of the problems is, though, isn't it, Chris, that sometimes our local authorities aren't very good at gritting the pathways and the pavements. They're not very good at... Sometimes it seems to me that they grit the roads when it's then a mild day, and then when it's actually freezing, it sometimes gets forgotten. So perhaps we do need to be warned about all these dangers.
Well, only because of the failure of the state, I guess, you know, and in its own very small way, and let's face it, this is a pretty, you know, it's a pretty trivial item, really, but in its own small way, this does sum up one of the big problems in the country, which is that the government is unable to fulfill its part of the bargain, and so tries to just control the public and get the public to mend its ways. What we really want is a government that's going to mend its ways. Really
fascinating there that we had Public Health England be split off almost into two agencies, the UK Health Security Agency and this other one that's name escapes me. One was meant to do the trivial stuff and one was meant to do the serious stuff. And they're both ending up doing the trivial stuff. So I wonder if we're going to get yet another split in a couple of years. And it's just going to be like a hydra. For every head you chop off of each of these government agencies, you get two more, and they're just as useless as the ones that get before. I mean, how many government agencies has this government formed actually only in the last 6 months? I was reading recently there are over 100 new government agencies, or planned to be, all of these different commissions and quangos. I mean, the state is growing at a rather unprecedented rate.
Yeah, but one of the quangos is entirely dedicated to government efficiency, Tom, so I don't think we need to worry about that.
Is like a double speak, isn't it?
Oh, well.
Christopher, thank you so much for joining us. Christopher Snowdon from the Institute of Economic Affairs. I'm just looking at the 3-step guide to walking like a penguin. So step 1 is legs out.
Okay.
So you take a strong stance.
Am I going to have to get up and...
Well, go on then, go on.
Okay, right, here we go.
Here we go, go on.
Right, OK. So, Emily, tell me precisely what I need to do.
OK, so step 1 is legs out.
Right.
So I think that means a wide stance.
Right, OK.
Step 2 is a soft knee bend.
Soft knee bend?
Yeah.
Right, OK.
Maybe that's a bit too low, but...
Right.
Anyway, step 3, arms out, which you're already doing, and now waddle. Yeah.
This is how the NHS is telling us all to walk.
This is how the NHS...
To stay safe this winter.
Yeah, that's the NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde in January.
Well, thank you, Greater Glasgow and Clyde. This is how I will be walking for the rest of the... OK, hang on. Right, here we go. Right, OK, coming back.
Can you tell it's Friday?
Tell you what, Emily, I've never felt safer. I've never felt safer in my life. Thank you, NHS Glasgow and Clyde.
I'm not sure that would work with my high heels. But anyway.
You might have noticed in the wide shot there, Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, who's much more serious than me today, has been watching all of that nonsense. But also, there is a serious point here. The government is facing a big set of challenges. People are feeling very cold. And one of their first decisions as a new government was to take away the winter fuel payments.
Yes, it's bitterly cold. I had to de-ice the car this morning. I was up in Leighton Buzzard for the People's Panel, and it was one of the first announcements that they made, wasn't it? Back in the summer, they wanted to do it then to give people time to adjust. But of course, it was one of many decisions that this new government have made which upset a lot of people. Millions of pensioners, not long after, followed, of course, by the big tax increases in the budget, those £40 billion worth of tax increases, when before the election they'd said that they had no plans to raise taxes beyond things like VAT on school fees and so on and so forth. And then the farmers. And we're 6 months in this weekend since Labour were elected in Leighton Buzzard. The people that I was with, one had voted Labour 40 years, another Tory, another voted for all parties. I asked them for something good that Labour had done in the first 6 months, and one of them managed to say that he was impressed by some of the things that Health Secretary Wes Streeting was saying. I could get nothing from the other two. And I think, you know, we're just at the beginning of January. It is bitterly cold. Now, the government, of course, are saying with the winter fuel allowance that they've put all sorts of mitigations in place. But I think it's a very, very tough sell. And of course, Labour's problems are getting even worse because we knew that Elon Musk is not a fan of Keir Starmer since the riots. To put it mildly, he's been taking lots and lots of pops at this new government. Today, they have gone to a whole different level, triggered, it seems, by Charlie Peters' brilliant scoop the other day about Jess Phillips' refusal to authorise an investigation into the Oldham grooming gangs scandal.
I mean, the way it's blown up, Charlie Peters, you know, lit a match that's lit a fire all over social media and the press at large, the broadcasting press as well. But I mean, what does this Labour? How much attention do you think they'll be paying to what Elon Musk is saying? Because he said a lot.
Well, I mean, look, this is deeply, deeply unhelpful. OK, JD Vance is going to be the vice president come the 20th of July. But to all intents and purposes, Elon Musk, A, owns XB, is the richest man in the world. You see him with Donald Trump, who is about to be the most powerful man on the planet. And he is there giving these opinions constantly. Today alone, I'm not going to repeat a lot of the ones he said, because I suspect they're quite libelous. But he's called for the King to intervene for new elections, saying the people of Britain don't want this government. He's made all sorts of accusations against the Prime Minister, based on the fact that he led the Crown Prosecution Service during some of this time. Worth saying, obviously, Jess Phillips has declined this investigation, but the Conservatives declined a plea from Oldham Council for an investigation a couple of years ago. Many politicians have basically looked the other way about this for many years. This has been going on for a very long time, but it does feel like the whole thing has sort of gone whoosh since Charlie Peters broke that story the other day. So it's dreadful for Labour having somebody so powerful, so in with Donald Trump. But I have to say, too, for all the support that they've given to reform, for all the rumours of the millions and millions. There was talk of 100 million, wasn't there? Nigel Farage says that's way out of the league, but there's been some discussions. I think it's also becoming quite problematic now for Nigel Farage and reform as well, because some of the tweets that Musk has been putting out, he's been very supportive of Tommy Robinson, for instance, called for him to be released from prison. Now, Nigel Farage and reform want nothing to do with Tommy Robinson, and I think, and indeed it's now being reported, that they are trying to make it known, Tories and reform, people on the right basically having a quiet word with allies of Donald Trump about some of these tweets that are flying around.
Elon Musk, he's been quite useful to reform.
But could he become a bit of a millstone?
Yeah,
big
very
questions.
interesting.
Thank you very much indeed.
our GB News political correspondent. Thank you.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and plenty more to come. Indeed, we're going to be diving more into that conversation. Is Elon Musk interfering too much in UK politics, or is he doing some fearless truth-telling? Well, we'll be posing that exact question to his father after this.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Today I am joined by documentary maker Daniel Wing, who is still trying to find out who murdered his mother 30 years on. He's also created a documentary called Who Murdered You, Mum? Daniel, can you just tell us the story of what happened to your mother, what you know?
So when I was 1 year old in 1992, my mum Tina was murdered. My dad went on trial for it and was acquitted. And the case went unsolved and has been unsolved for 32 years. My nan, who raised me, amazing woman, passed away sadly 2 years ago, and that kind of sent me on a quest for answers.
So your documentary then, what are you hoping to achieve with it?
I am fighting for justice for my mum. I have had a meeting with the police and they are looking to see what they have and are looking to reopen investigation if they can find new and compelling evidence. What's interesting now is speaking to other families who are actually going through the trauma and experience of murder.
Yeah.
My mum didn't get the opportunity to be a mum. What would my life have been? I'm now 33 years old with no parents. And it's that kind of thing. It's a very, I guess, lonely journey in what I'm experiencing. That's why I wanted to make this film, because I hadn't had the opportunity to be able to grieve my mother and know who she was. And that was really what this journey was about. It was about finding out who she was and being able to grieve. Everyone had the opportunity, although terrible circumstances, to be able to go to the funeral and have that moment, and I never had that opportunity.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Queer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 24 minutes past 1. And should Elon Musk, the senior ally of the next president of the United States, indeed one of the two men heading up the US Department of Government Efficiency, should he be quite so obsessed with the United Kingdom?
Yeah, should he butt out, or do you quite enjoy his interventions online? Let's pose that question firstly to Labour activist and writer Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, thank you so much for coming on. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Elon Musk, of course, is the owner of one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, as well as a billionaire in his own right, and as well as a key ally to Donald Trump. And he has spent the last however many months tweeting a lot about British politics, and he's certainly taken it upon himself to, batter Keir Starmer, really. He clearly detests Keir Starmer and the Labour government. Do you think he should be saying such things? Do you think he has the freedom to do, or he should butt out?
I think it's very dangerous for somebody. The richest man, your previous guest mentioned this, the richest man, owner of the site of one of the most powerful political sites, X. Also somebody who's now cozying up to Tommy Robinson. I think it's deeply dangerous. I think it's completely wrong. And I think, this isn't just a normal average Joe having an opinion about what he feels, something going on in another country. This is a man with huge amounts of influence, huge amounts of sway. He literally is best buddies with Donald Trump, who is going to be the most powerful man in a couple of weeks in the world. So I think this is really worrying. And also, this is somebody who doesn't understand the nuances of British politics. He doesn't understand the history of the grooming gangs. He doesn't understand how politics work in the UK. I mean, literally, he's tweeting at the King and he's making all these libelous comments about Keir Starmer. I've campaigned around grooming gangs for nearly 20 years. I saw my friends, my school friends, when I was a teenager. I live in Keighley. I've grown up in Keighley, and I've seen firsthand, cars coming to the school that I attended and picking up my friends when I was 13, 14, 15, and everybody knew and nobody did anything about it. And I work in education, I work in safeguarding, and I've been campaigning around this topic for literally nearly 2 decades now. And I've seen firsthand how the local councils, the police, social workers, it was something that these young girls were let down, these victims were let down systematically. And obviously now we know, not just in Keighley, but, Oldham, Rotherham, Rochdale, Oxford. There's so many places, I can't even name them all.
Yeah.
So this is a very serious topic. What I find worrying is that somebody like Elon Musk, I mean, he's a billionaire sitting at home, maybe bored, not much to do, waiting, just kind of thinking, oh, this is good fun. If he genuinely understood British politics, if he genuinely knew what was going on and the extent, he wouldn't be cozying up to Tommy Robinson. He wouldn't be supporting Tommy Robinson. He doesn't even understand why Tommy Robinson is in court, is in prison. He's literally saying, he's a victim of a campaign to silence him. That's not what's happened with Tommy Robinson.
Yeah. Okay, Aisha, we're going to have to leave it there, but you make a strong point. You make a very strong point. Aisha Ali Khan, Labour activist and writer.
Yeah, because we're now joined by Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk. Errol, thanks so much for making the time for us today. Do you think that there's a difference between your common or garden billionaire commenting on British politics and someone involved with the mechanism now or coming up to of US government commenting on British politics? Is there a distinction to be made?
Well, at the moment, Elon is a private citizen, so there's no government involved, so you can strike that one. The thing is that Elon is doing what very many people like him would, if they had the means, to do across the world. We are all children of England, of the UK, of England, Scotland, and Ireland. We've all taken the beliefs and feelings of the UK, those islands around the world. And it's those morals and beliefs that have made the modern world. And England is for us a parent country. It's everything. It means so much, to all of us. Even the Americans, the vast majority of the Americans are from British, English extraction, I'd say. Yes, Scottish, Irish, of course. And so what happens there is very, very important to us. And Elon is not just simply because he's, the billionaire nonsense, just simply because he's in a position to comment. There are millions who would be doing the same thing if they were in a position
you're saying
to
he
comment.
deeply cares. He deeply cares about this country.
Yes, deeply cares.
Do you think maybe he goes a bit far when he calls for serving ministers to be sent to jail?
Well, if you look at what these ministers that you've got now said about Trump, they seem to have no trouble in the last few months and before even of saying terrible things about Trump, things that are so gross that you can't really repeat them. And they had no trouble doing that. So I don't know where people come with, this attitude that no, only they can say things and other people can't. No. Elon is telling the truth. People out there in England, they all know it's the truth. The backlash against Starmer is enormous, and they're playing it down hugely. But in reality, no government in Starmer's position, except for the fact that people sort of feel sorry for them because they're the sort of weak side of society, that they let them go on. And so, no, they must go. They have to go. By February, I imagine he'll be gone.
Goodness me. Well, of course, Elon Musk, your son, born in South Africa, I believe has Canadian citizenship as well. I mean, the extraction of that, these are two Commonwealth countries. Commonwealth citizens technically have the right to vote in British elections were they to move here. So do you know if Elon Musk still holds South African and Canadian citizenship?
Yes, well, I'm entitled to a British passport because my parents were British and born there. I was born here in South Africa, and Elon was born here. But of course, he's also entitled to British citizenship, I imagine, and he could do that. But that's not the point. The point is we are, in fact, doesn't matter what the paperwork says, we are, in fact, all children of that country of yours. We are all deeply tied emotionally and everything that goes with that to England and Scotland. I must include England and Ireland, of course. And, what goes on there, that's our beacon. That's what we look at for the way we do things. We say, well, what would they have done in England? What do the English people, or, I'm sorry, I keep going to England, but what do the people in the UK say? And half the most important people, at least of any consequence of the last few hundred years, came from England. And Scotland and Ireland
and Wales.
Errol, what do you think? What do you think Elon's? What do you think Elon's response would be? What do you think Elon Musk's response would be if Nigel Farage called him up and said, "Oh, can you, steady on a bit with some of those tweets"? What do you think he'd say?
Speaking as a man, I'm a man. I'm one of the great things about being out of in the sort of outside world, in the bush and all that sort of thing, we have to be more tough here, I suppose. I don't know. We've got irons and everything here. But anyway, no. I look at Farage. I see he talks right. He doesn't look very strong to me. He doesn't particularly look like a strong man to me. You need a very strong man to get England out of, the SHIT that it's in. You need a very strong man. And, I don't know if he's the man, but, we have to see. I don't really think if Farage said anything, it would affect Elon's opinion. No, I think it wouldn't affect my opinion either. I'm looking for the bulk of that strength that's in England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales that made the world that we have today. Where is it? They've got to come back and show us. They're the ones we look at, for example, not people we look at and shake our heads in sorrow, which we're doing right now.
No, it's a fascinating insight into a worldview that I think a lot of people in the English-speaking world have. So many of these, well, it's the language, it's the legal system, it's frankly what we describe now as universal values, but overwhelmingly the values that we say are universal values. I mean, they're British values. They were founded in the language that we're speaking now. But Errol Musk, thank you so much for helping explain that. I think it's opened I think a little insight into what's going on in your son's head right now. Really, really fascinating stuff. Errol Musk there, father of Elon Musk.
Very interesting. We'll be reading out some of your comments on this because I know you all have a lot to say on this topic. We've got lots more coming up, though. Nick Clegg, remember him? Well, he's being replaced in his role at Meta, that's the owning company of Facebook, because Mark Zuckerberg is looking to build a less hostile relationship with Donald Trump ahead of his second term in office. And I guess Nick Clegg isn't so relevant to that, perhaps.
Interesting. Is Nick Clegg the latest, sacrificial lamb of the Trump presidency? That to come after your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Tom, thank you very much. The top stories. The Health Secretary says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs, whilst saying that Elon Musk's attack on the government's handling of the issue is misjudged and certainly misinformed. Mr Musk attacked the decision of Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Well, Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry into the UK's rape gang scandal, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Excuse me. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. Wes Streeting invited Musk to roll up his sleeves and work with us against rape gangs. The government has launched an independent commission to transform social care, but proposals for major reform may not be delivered for years. Health and Social Care Secretary Wes Streeting is promising to finally grasp the nettle on social care reform, with an independent commission due to begin work in April. But the commission, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, is not due to publish its final report until 2028. And a baby boy was killed in a crash late last night in Lincolnshire near Grantham, and police are investigating whether that incident was linked to icy conditions. A woman also travelling in the same car suffered serious injuries, and 2 other passengers were not seriously injured. An amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions across much of England and Wales has been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees overnight. The country has been hit by a blast of cold weather, with temperatures falling as low as -5. And those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there are multiple warnings in force for snow and ice. Likely we could see some travel disruption as a result of the rain, snow and strong winds this weekend. But to end the week, actually lots of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure stretches across the country, bringing cold conditions, yes, but plenty of sunshine. Can't rule out some showers, particularly around coasts of Northern Ireland, some northern coasts of Wales, also some coasts of Scotland too. These could be falling as snow, mainly across hills, though we may also see some flurries to lower levels too. But for the large majority of the country, there'll be plenty of sunshine. Feeling cold though, highs only reaching around 4 to 5 Celsius across the south. Then into the evening, once again, can't rule out some showers, particularly around coastal areas, but there'll still be plenty of clear spells, but that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, likely seeing some icy stretches across parts of the north and also some frost in places too. Similar across Northern Ireland, could see some ice here. Once again, some showers around coastal areas, showers also around coasts of Wales too. But for the large majority overnight, plenty of clear spells, so likely to see some frost and also some icy stretches, particularly in northern areas. And across the south too, once again, that's where we're going to see the majority of those clear spells, so likely to see some ice by the time we reach the morning. And once again, that widespread very sharp frost, but it's likely to be a fairly bright start to Saturday, but just once again feeling very chilly. For Saturday itself, once again, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. Still can't rule out any of those showers, particularly around northern coasts, still falling as sleet and snow once again over hills, but also to lower levels too. And then we start to see a bit of a change from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain, they're starting to fall as sleet and snow across the high ground of parts of the southwest and southern parts of Wales, leading us to an unsettled weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
I'm John Vincent. In Perth and Kinross, we've got the usual congestion on the M90 northbound at junction 12, the Broxton roundabout. In Lincolnshire, the A1 southbound in Barrowby is closed for accident investigation work between Grantham North and Grantham South. We've got the usual slowdown on the M61 southbound in Manchester at junction 1 of the M60, that's the Swinton interchange. Queues on the M6 southbound in the West Midlands, 2 lanes closed for an accident between junction 6 Spaghetti Junction and 5 for Castle Bromwich Bromwich, and nearby we've got the usual slowdown on the M5 northbound to join the M6 at Junction A, and long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire. 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs and an accident between Junction 24 Potters Bar and 23 South Mims. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 20 to 2. And the former Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, he's out of a new job. Yes, for 7 years, he's been at Meta. That's the parent company of Facebook, of WhatsApp, of Instagram. Well, he was appointed there by Mark Zuckerberg 7 years ago. But now he's out as the Zuck prepares to seek a less hostile relationship with Donald Trump.
Yes, and I guess Nick Clegg was there because he knew everything about the European Union. And that's where he's a Europhile. But he will be replaced by his current deputy and Republican, crucially, Joel Kaplan, who previously served as Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House during President George W. Bush's administration and is known for handling the company's relationships with Republicans. So a bit more useful, perhaps.
Well, this is an interesting shift, isn't it? If you look at big tech in America, and frankly, it's not just big tech. When we talk about big tech in America, we just mean big tech in the world. There's no big tech European company. The biggest tech European company is probably Spotify, which is just an app.
Quite a big one.
Well, I mean, compared to... It's an app on a phone that all the American companies make, or an app on the computer that the American companies make. I mean, Europe doesn't make anything. It's
Happy Friday to you too.
But maybe this is part of the story here. That because all of the new AI companies and everything in tech is moving towards AI, well, all of the new AI companies are not releasing their products in Europe because the European Union passed their AI Act that's made it really hard to make AI in Europe. Is Europe just not a market now for these companies? They really don't care what happens in this little declining corner of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it does show that these big companies think that the game to play is in the United States now. And that Donald Trump is the one you need to woo. Because Donald Trump, you know, he does sometimes like regulation, doesn't he? He does sometimes like to... We know all the talk of tariffs and things like that, but he might come down hard on the internet space, although with his own, you know, with his own social media network, perhaps not. I don't know. It does show. But Nick Clegg, is he just a bit irrelevant now? You know, he's an ageing Europhile.
Well, I think he was an inspired appointment back in, 2017. He was appointed by Mark Zuckerberg to be sort of the governmental lead. He'd be talking, and because we know that the EU loves to tax and regulate and ban, and I think Facebook at that time was very worried about that. He was a genius appointment, quite frankly, to try and be that bridge between California and Brussels.
You really believe in Nick Clegg, don't you?
I believe.
Were you a Nick Clegg fan? Did you have a badge?
No, I was never a big fan, but I sort of understand the business strategy there of Mark Zuckerberg. If the big regulatory threat is coming from the Europeans, you want a guy who can talk to you and talk to them. And that's what he was there for. But now that Trump is back, and now that actually, frankly, Europe has been in relative decline as a continent, that Europe isn't getting all of the new AI stuff, because that's the other thing that Mark Zuckerberg is doing mostly now. Meta is not just Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. It's also a big AI company. That's like where a lot of its investment is going, also in its metaverse that we can see on our screens now. But Europe is going to miss out on so much of that. Their previous pivot towards looking at European regulators almost seems irrelevant now. And Europe is seeming less and less relevant.
Well, that's a depressing picture, isn't it, for us? Perhaps we'll take lessons from the United States, though, on these things. That might be nice. It'd be nice if we had a bit more, you know, tech going on, a bit more growth, a bit more manufacturing even.
But if we want to do that, we've got to not just leave the European Union, which, of course, have regulated so much that there's no big tech EU company, but also get rid of the regulations that we had when we were in... Because we've got so many of these European regulations still...
Right, we need to get to some views now. We need to get some views, because lots of people have been in touch about the whole Elon Musk, Donald Trump interfering in British politics. Interesting what Elon Musk's dad had to say about Nigel Farage. Not so keen. He says he's not much of a strong man.
I know, fascinating comment.
There you go, not what Nigel probably wants to hear. But yes, Dubbing Neddle says our uni-party politicians are being exposed on the world stage for what they are for a change, and they don't like it.
Well, Richard says Elon's dad is OK. He understands what's happening. That's a ringing endorsement.
And Wendy says Elon Musk knows how we have complete inaction in British politics. We need him now. Good luck, Elon.
And Brian says, why should Musk or Trump have a view and voice it about UK politics? After all, Labour sent activists over to America to try and influence their politics. Why shouldn't it happen the other way around?
That's a good point. And Amodio, he says, many have thrown abuse and political condemnation at leaders and nations for decades. Putin, Russia, China, Korea, South Africa, Africa, so many more. And now that Britain has reached the same levels of political and social decay, by nature it becomes a nation that people can now essentially slag off. Great. Brilliant.
Goodness me. Well, I thought the most interesting element of what Elon Musk had to say is how people living in English-speaking countries still feel a great sense of affinity towards the UK. Yeah. And I think it was telling that he kept saying England because that's the language we're speaking in, English. But there is something special that does link all of the countries that speak English predominantly. Yeah. I mean, we can all talk and have this sort of communication so much more easily than we can with countries that, frankly, speak different languages, have different histories, have different legal codes, different systems. There is something in the Anglosphere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what Aisha Ali Khan said, the Labour activist said about how Elon might be sat at home bored, that's annoyed a few of you. That he's a massive entrepreneur, businessman, billionaire. He probably doesn't sit at home bored. Maybe he never sleeps.
Well,
maybe that's the issue.
That could be it. It does seem that he tweets all throughout all various hours of the day, perhaps getting less sleep even than Margaret Thatcher did. But if you're in search for some rest, perhaps some more sleep than Elon Musk is getting, then have a look for some winter sun. Here are some of your top European holiday destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east, with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses while staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things, but it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 to 2. And to end on a lighter note this hour, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has announced a new Netflix series.
Woohoo! The new lifestyle show called With Love, Meghan, is set to premiere on the 15th of January, featuring 8 30-minute episodes, bite-sized chunks.
Well, joining us now is royal and showbiz journalist Ellen Coughlin. Ellen, thanks so much for being with us. This is a bit of a surprise move from Meghan. Was anyone expecting a new series this year?
Yes, well, she kind of teased it last year, along with her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard. So we were expecting something more from her. And actually, all of those things, we're all multifaceted women. I'm sure you have other interests besides GB News. I'm sure you have family and friends that see different sides of you. So that's exactly what Meghan is. She's not giving up her charity work or her philanthropy. We'll see her doing all that stuff still. This is just another side of Meghan that we get to see and enjoy. And the show looks beautiful. I think it's right up her street. She has a show on Netflix. She doesn't stop her charity work because she has a show on Netflix. It's just another part of her life that she's going to include.
Well, there we go. Ellen Coughlin, thank you so much for talking us through what is With Love, Meghan, a new series starting this new year, 2025
Thank you very
on
much.
Netflix. Thanks for joining us.
Well, there you go. What do you make of it? Are you going to be tuning in? This sort of luxury lifestyle look, you know, California, housewife, baking the cakes,
well, this is
making the jam.
If you don't own a large Californian ranch, will this really speak to you? I mean, I've got a small. I don't think I'm. Well,
you can make jam.
I could make jam, but I mean, I don't have a big garden. I mean, I don't. Anyway.
Right. Anyway, next we're live at the Reform UK conference as Elon Musk's father tells us Nigel Farage is not a strong man.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas, likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells. But as I say, a very chilly night on offer. Most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland still, we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions. Some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won $25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In 2020, after almost 80 years, Oxford University's Pitt Rivers Museum removed its famous collection of shrunken heads with sewn-up lips and eyes made by the South American Shuar and Ashwar people. How do museums decide what should be shown and what should be confined to storage? Can controversial exhibits be left on display with suitable contextualisation in captions? Who would want to be a curator facing such controversial questions? For review, I'm delighted to be joined by journalist Eitan Smallman. Welcome to GB News. I think many people, when they hear that we're going to discuss museums or art galleries, think that it's going to be, that wokery question. But it strikes me, and I think it strikes you too, that this is not just about wokery at all. There are some really interesting ethical questions here. For example, let's start with this one, and there are several examples of it. Should we be displaying human bodies, the remains of human beings? Should we be displaying them in museums?
Absolutely. It's not just the usual suspects, young snowflakes, who are objecting to these things. There are just naturally cultural shifts, and people of all ages and all political persuasions may feel uneasy about displaying human remains of any kind, especially human remains that have been taken against the will of the communities or taken violently. Hilary Mantel led a campaign to remove a 7-foot 7-inch skeleton of Charles Byrne, known as the Irish Giant, from the Hunterian Museum. He had specifically said that he didn't want to be displayed and didn't want to be taken by anatomists, and yet was displayed for a couple of hundred years until a couple of years ago. He hasn't had the burial he requested, but he's no longer on public display.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 3rd of January. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Don't go outside. Stock up on food and medicine. Frankly, stay at home. Yes, ominous warnings from the NHS as the Arctic blast batters Britain. We're asking if this is an appropriate response to, well, winter. Or have we all gone a bit soft?
And where in the United Kingdom is this picture from? And get rid of windmills. Donald Trump launches a scathing attack on the government, saying Britain is making a very big mistake by retreating from oil and gas. He's urging Keir Starmer to open up the North Sea. Is the president-elect right?
And 17-year-old sensation Luke the Nuke Littler batters Stephen Bunting 6-1 in the World Dart Championship to head to a huge final tonight against Michael van Gerwen. we're speaking to a darts legend later this hour.
OK, well, we've got a lot coming up this hour. It is, of course, the Reform UK conference today. Now, things do kick off, I think, later in the evening, but we're going to be speaking to our political editor to see what the mood is on the ground. We did speak to Elon Musk's father, a little bit earlier, and he seemed to think that Nigel Farage isn't a strong enough man to lead this country, I suppose.
It was
interesting intervention.
Surprising curveball, given Elon Musk has been pretty forthright in his support for the Reform Party, for Nigel Farage. Of course, Nigel Farage flew out to Mar-a-Lago, of all places, to meet with Elon Musk at the end of last year. And subsequently, I mean, even just hours ago, Elon Musk has been tweeting vote reform. So perhaps that's a split between Errol and Elon Musk on the issue of Nigel Farage's suitability to being Prime Minister. But this is all very interesting because we're getting a lot of senior figures in the incoming US administration talking about UK politics. Elon Musk talking a lot about grooming gangs, about Keir Starmer, even one tweet calling on the King to dissolve Parliament and call a general election, which would be a first in a good few hundred years. But
I think 2 hours ago he was tweeting about how the King needs to get involved, so there you go.
Well, it takes all sorts, doesn't it? But Donald Trump as well, he's posted on his network Truth Social saying that Britain is balmy for its windfall tax on North Sea oil and gas, particularly at a time when it's so cold and when energy is so expensive. That's another really interesting point, tying together all of these different stories. American leadership talking about British issues, all while it's blooming freezing here at home.
Well, I mean, we have an awful lot always to say about politics in the United States. You know, I mean, how many things have our politicians said about Donald Trump, for one? So perhaps it's a free-for-all. You know, say what you like. Don't worry about diplomacy. Just say what you like.
That's a fair point, actually. When it's opposition politicians, they seem very free to shoot from the hip and talk about Trump.
Absolutely, they do.
But when it's politicians in government, whether it's David Lammy or Keir Starmer, you know, in opposition they said lots of things. Now they're in government, they don't. Is there a different sort of rule we have to apply to people when they're in government?
We can look back at everything they've said in the past. Anyway, gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think. But it's your headlines with Tatiana.
Emily, thank you very much. The top stories. Well, Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs, whilst also saying that Elon Musk's attack on the government's handling of the issue is misjudged and certainly misinformed. Well, his comments come after Elon Musk attacked the decision of safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was only for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the 2022 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. Wes Streeting invited Musk to roll up his sleeves and work with us against rape gangs.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
In other news, the government has launched an independent commission to transform social care, but proposals for major reform may not be delivered for years. Health and Social Care Secretary Wes Streeting is promising to finally grasp the nettle on social care reform, with an independent commission due to begin work in April. But the commission, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, is not due to publish its final report until 2028. Social care means help for older or disabled people with day-to-day tasks like washing, dressing, medication and eating. Liberal Democrats leader Sir Ed Davey says things need to move at a faster pace.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
In other news, a 7-month-old baby has died after a car lost control on a dual carriageway in Lincolnshire near Grantham and hit a tree, with police investigating whether the crash was linked to icy conditions. A woman also travelling in the same car suffered serious injuries, and 2 other passengers were not seriously injured. An amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions across much of England and Wales has been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees tonight, and the country has been hit by a blast of cold weather, those temperatures falling as low as -5 overnight. Amber alerts are in place until the 8th of January. The number of patients in hospital with flu has quadrupled in the last month, according to new NHS England data. There were 5,074 patients with flu in hospital on the 29th of December, up from 1,190 at the end of November. The figures also showed there were 4,102 patients in hospital with flu on Christmas Day, before it rose sharply by almost a quarter. The NHS has warned that the drop in temperature across the UK, which has led to rare health alerts from the UK Health Security Agency, could lead to continued pressure on hospitals. And Luke Littler says it'll be the stuff dreams are made of if he can create history by becoming the youngest ever world darts champion. Littler beat Stephen Bunting to book his place in the final of the World Dart Championships, which takes place tonight. The 17-year-old was favourite to progress into the final for a second year running and swept 39-year-old Bunting aside to win by 6-1 at the Alexandra Palace in London. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in half an hour.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 2, and in case you hadn't noticed, it's pretty cold outside.
It's flipping freezing, isn't it? So cold, in fact, that the NHS has warned people not to go out. And this is interesting. So not to go out early in the morning and not to go out late at night. I'm not sure, is that because they're the coldest times, or
I think this
when it might be dark?
Institutional NHS bias against Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. They just don't want you to watch this programme. But we say no. No to the nannies. Stay at home, sit on that sofa, make yourself a warm cup of tea and watch GB News.
Absolutely, because the country is facing the big Arctic freeze. And the NHS is also urging us to stock up on food and medicine supplies.
Well, it all comes as the UK Health Security Agency warns the cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death.
OK, so how is the cold impacting you at home? Delighted to be joined by GB viewer Billy Dale. Billy, thank you so much. First things first, are you keeping warm?
Yes, I am, yeah. We were very lucky we had the government grant, which is house insulation, loft insulation, a new boiler. So we took advantage of that and we had help from there. So we did very well.
Oh, fantastic. Where in the country are you?
I'm in Stoke-on-Trent.
OK, so it's probably quite chilly.
Yeah, it is, yes, at the moment, yeah.
No, yeah. but hugely important to notice or to mention the insulation issue, because so many homes across the UK simply don't have that insulation. We've got the oldest housing stock of pretty much any country in the world, and for some countries, some houses are much harder to insulate than others. But Billy, of course, it's cold. We know it's cold. Yeah. We do get this every year. What do you think about the UK Health Security Agency telling us when we should think or not think about leaving our own homes?
You've got to go out sometimes, haven't you? You've got to go out to do shopping and things. So, you know, you can't just sit around in your house. You know, and sometimes people in a house where it could be too cold to just sit around. You have to keep moving to keep warm. Some people haven't got the choice of just to sit there in a lovely warm house. They've got to move around and go somewhere where it may be warm for them.
Yeah, well, this is the point. And Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, he's been out on the media today saying that today is the day to make sure you have your heating on. But for a lot of particularly elderly people, with the winter fuel payment being taken away and with, inflation still biting, they may still be, asking that question whether to turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, some people, like I say, can't afford it, and they'll have the choice of heating or eating. And, it's a choice that they shouldn't have to make. There should be money there for people that are vulnerable. They give all their lives, 80 people who are in the 80s, 90s, who probably fought in the war that need help. And they give for this country, so I think they should give back.
It is extraordinary looking at the cost of energy in this country compared to other countries around the world. I mean, everyone's seen energy costs go up, of course, in the wake of the Ukraine war. But some countries saw those costs go up by a lot more than others. And some countries have had their energy getting more expensive year on year well before the Ukraine war too. Yeah. I mean, the industrial price of energy in the UK is 2 or 3 times what it is in the United States. Just extraordinary. I want to get your thoughts, Billy, on what Donald Trump has seen fit to post on his own social network, Truth Social, just today, that the UK is being far too punitive with taxation on extracting our own natural resources in the North Sea.
Well, we should keep them open. The licences should be there. I think the Conservatives did give some out when they were in power, didn't they? And I think the Labour has taken them back again. Now, when you've got your own energy on your doorstep, why are we buying from other countries when we've got it there? It doesn't make sense. In fact, we could do and supply other people and make money out of it. Everybody else makes money. America does.
Sounds a lot like common sense, doesn't it?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? You look at Norway, you look at Saudi Arabia, you look at Qatar, you look at the United States, all of these countries with oil and gas, and they're making bank with it, and us with all of our oil and gas, and we just say, no, leave it in the ground.
We're such losers, aren't we?
Yeah. So, we've probably got another 100 years of stuff up there, I don't know, the North Sea, but we should be using it. Because we can't go electric, we can't afford to everybody put electric on, like all the charges for all the cars they want. You're just going to have blackouts. We haven't got the infrastructure to do it. So I'm afraid it's going to have to be a bit longer, and they should give the licenses for drill and more gas and oil.
Well, you know what? You sound like the voice of common sense, Billy. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for watching GB News. GB View.
Yeah, I'm a regular viewer.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Keep warm.
Well, we're going to head over to the Reform UK Midlands Conference now. Nigel Farage is due to attend and host this conference this evening in Leicester.
Yes, it comes following a poll published for the Sunday Times, which projected that Reform UK could now win a total of 72 seats in the event of a new general election. They got 5, didn't they?
They got 5.
Yeah.
But given that their polling rating has risen really over the last 6 months pretty consistently, could these strong numbers lead to that sort of growth? Well, we spoke to Elon Musk's father, Elon Musk, a little bit earlier in the programme. He wasn't so keen on Nigel Farage, didn't see him as a strong man.
I think we have to be more tough here, I suppose. I don't know. We've got irons and everything here. But anyway, no. I look at Farage, I see he talks right. He doesn't look very strong to me. It doesn't particularly look like a strong man to me. You need a very strong man to get England out of, the sin. You need a very strong man. And, I don't know if he's the man.
That was a bit of a curveball, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that because obviously Elon likes Nigel Farage, or appears to anyway. But yes, let's speak to GB News political editor Christopher Hope, who's up in Leicester covering the conference for us. So, Christopher, that's what Elon Musk's father has to say. Interesting, eh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, welcome to Leicester. We're waiting for this first big reform rally of 2025. It's sold out, we're told, by Nigel Farage. He started tweeting about. He says in the past half an hour, an apology is not yet being forthcoming from Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, regarding her crazy conspiracy theories about Reform UK. You might remember on the membership levels being claimed by Reform UK and saying those figures aren't right and questioning whether they were really there or not. And of course, since then.
I do apologise about the connection there to Leicester. I think if Reform UK are going to be campaigning on anything, it might well be blooming better signal in some of the not London parts of the UK.
But I think he was going to tell us about how Nigel Farage did say on New Year's Eve, actually, on the GBNews New Year's Eve party, that he was going to issue some kind of response or statement regarding Kemi Badenoch, because obviously Kemi Badenoch accused him of, well, fiddling with the ticker online, the membership ticker. And then it got into a bit of a public row.
Sorry, I haven't heard the phrase fiddling with the ticker before. But yes, it was a big public row, wasn't it?
It was a very big
But enough
public
about
row.
Nigel Farage's ticker. Kemi Badenoch, of course, did a thread on Twitter saying that this was an algorithmic setup, that it wasn't reflecting the real numbers. But then Reform UK showed a whole host of news services, the back end. Goodness me, Nigel Farage's ticker.
OK, that's enough now. That's enough now. It is lunchtime.
I'm so sorry.
Anyway, there was a row. And I think Nigel Farage has something to say today, and hopefully we'll get Christopher back. If not, perhaps he can, I don't know, tweet us, message us what he was going to say.
He could indeed, because the back end of this website was opened up, and it was shown that these were indeed real numbers, and that's the point.
And Kemi looked a bit silly, didn't she?
Will Nigel Farage tonight announce the sort of legal action that they've been hinting at? Will there be some sort of big response? We'll keep an eye on that one in Leicester.
And will he mind that Elon Musk's dad isn't too keen?
Big questions, big questions. But Donald Trump has launched a scathing attack on the Labour government, saying Britain is making a very big mistake retreating from oil and gas, as he urged Keir Starmer to open up the North Sea.
Yes, taking to Truth Social, his social media network, the President-elect also said the UK should get rid of windmills. And by windmills, I believe he means wind turbines. I also call them windmills. I can't help myself.
Oh, I think windmills are prettier. But joining us now is spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, Jill Tavner. Jill, thanks for being with us.
Hiya.
I mean,
Thanks for having me.
I can imagine you're going to say Donald Trump's wrong here. But it is true that energy is cheaper in the United States than it is in the UK.
The price of our energy is regulated by the international gas markets, and it's set by that. And the one way to make ourselves free of that is to use renewables more. Then we set our own prices. And can I just talk about your previous caller, Billy? I agree with so much that he said. He's so right about we need to insulate our houses. But there's one thing that I would like to correct that you're allowed to go. And the Rosebank, when Sunak allowed drilling, allowed licenses for the Rosebank oil fields in the North Sea, that would all be sold overseas, and we would have to buy it. It was bought by a Norwegian company, and you cited Norway.
Yes.
And that's the big mistake, to think that is going to be our energy security.
But Jill, isn't that part of it?
Is to use the natural power we have of wind and solar. China's doing it, better than we are.
No, completely agree. I mean,
I'm burning coal at record rates.
Well, yeah, China's got an all-in policy, a bit like the
transition is
United
happening.
States. I mean, it's extraordinary. Texas has built more wind turbines and solar panels than just about any other place on Earth other than China.
That's
I mean,
oil state, isn't it? So
and it does all of it. But that's the point, Jill. I'm a big all of it kind of person. I think absolutely go for the wind, go for the solar, go for the nuclear. But also, why not? If we're buying in gas from the Americans, who cares if we sell it on the open market? We're going to get the revenue from that. I mean, oil and gas-rich countries, from America to Canada to Norway to Saudi Arabia to Qatar to just about everywhere you look in the world, they're making lots of money doing all of this stuff. Meanwhile, we sit here cold and poor.
All we get is, as far as I'm aware, all we get is the revenue from selling the licenses. But you said, why not do it? The blooming obvious reason not to do it is because we cannot release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We really are. We are the generation that has it right on our shoulders to make that difference. And we are living in the time when we can make that difference. If we continue drilling, we're in so much trouble.
But that would be lovely, but we're importing it all from countries that are less environmentally interested. We're
importing it or not. If you're so bothered about our sovereignty, let's not listen to what Trump says. Let's not listen to Elon Musk's dad. You know, what are we? Do we want to be the next state of the USA? Let's make our own decisions. Let's make sensible decisions, not listen to these loonies, these criminals I mean,
but
Trump
Jill, energy experts tell us that we're going to need oil and gas at least till 2050. Why not help contribute with
statistics? Those statistics from the Climate Change Committee were false, and even Claire Coutinho, the energy minister at the time, admitted actually that renewables will keep our prices down better than would further investment.
So why do we
in
have the
fossil
highest
fuels.
energy bills in the world?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the intricacies of the market. I'm sorry, but I just know what's the right thing to do in terms of the future and the very near-term future. I mean, Trump has said that climate change is a hoax, and yet he's put in a recent application on a golf course in Ireland, said to build a 200-metre-long wall because of the dangers of rising sea levels caused by climate change. He's just a charlatan. He's a chancer. He's out for what he can get. And I do not want him to have any say in our politics. What about our sovereignty that your viewers have cared so much about? Who is he?
Yeah, I think there is a really genuine point there about the inconsistencies of Donald Trump, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
But there is also the point that we talk about the global price of energy. I mean, there is more of a regional price of energy. In Europe, we find it's very expensive. In America, it's about half the cost. And in America, they do fracking, they drill, they exploit their natural resources in a way that we in Europe don't. And I worry that countries like Germany and the UK that have had the highest spike in energy prices are actually going to be counterproductive for the climate change cause, right? If all these countries around the world look at the UK, look at Germany, look at the economic decline we've experienced in the last couple of years, look at the cost of our energy, they're going to be less likely to do the renewable stuff that we want the other countries to do.
Yes.
Why don't we look at China that has doing well, and we're so concerned about being the next leader globally? They're the only country that has met its renewables target set, the voluntary set. It met it 6 years early. And in 2023, they installed 50% of all new solar power in the world. We are being
They also installed a majority of the coal-fired power stations in the world.
Look, Trump's still stuck in the era of oil. We need to move on. China's moving on. We're left behind. We need to be investing in solar. We need to stop subsidising oil and gas. And we need
China's not choosing one or the other, though, and that's the difference. You're asking us in this country to choose between one or the other. China is not making that decision. India is not making that decision. The United States is not making that decision. We are impoverishing ourselves to pursue net zero, while other countries are simply saying, you know what, we're going to be practical, keep all of these things in the air, and we will move towards a renewable future, but we're not going to impoverish or freeze our citizens.
You're just not understanding the urgency. It is so important that globally we stop oil and gas within the next 5 years.
But you're holding up China as some kind of example.
No, I'm putting them as an example of they are really investing in renewables, and they will continue to do so at a rate faster than us, and that will enable them to drop oil and gas sooner than us. And importantly, their sort of burning per head of the population is a lot lower than ours. And
but it's increasing.
A lot of them are living in poverty.
They have a higher total demand, obviously, because they've got a higher total number of people.
Yeah.
The highest demand per head is America and us, pretty much.
Okay, well, Jill Tavner...
So why can't we reduce demand as well?
That's a good point too. Yeah, maybe.
Jill Tavner, I'm sorry, we're so sorry. We've got to get to a break, but I think we could have you back and talk for a lot longer than we've just had. Really appreciate your thoughts. Of course, Just Stop Oil spokesperson Jill Tavner. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, there we go. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. Lots more coming up. We are going to be discussing the grooming gang scandal, as the government says it won't order a national inquiry, as enough have already taken place and a new one won't make a difference. Do you agree? That's to come.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come obviously from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments, which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 2, and we're going to return to the grooming gang scandal. Kemi Badenoch, of course, has demanded that government inquiry, an immediate inquiry, into child exploitation.
Yes, it comes as Keir Starmer is attacked over his handling of the Oldham grooming gang scandal when he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service, with Labour blocking an inquiry into his conduct at the time.
Well, it's now emerged the Conservatives rejected a national inquiry into grooming gangs in 2022 when they were in government. So let's discuss this.
Yeah, let's. We're CEO and founder of Freedom from Abuse, Marilyn Hawes. Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us on this. What do you make of it all? Labour criticised for rejecting this national inquiry. Then we find out that actually the Conservatives had done the same just a couple of years ago. What do you make of it all?
Well, the whole thing's a mess, isn't it? It doesn't matter which side of the government you're on. Jess Phillips, quite frankly, is an utter disgrace. Last year, she came out loud and proud talking about her support of violence against women and girls. Now she's saying, oh, it's all down to the councils. No, it's not, because grooming gangs, or I would prefer to call them exploitation gangs, are across the whole of the UK, up, down, round, all around the seaside resorts, villages, you name it. This has been going on as far as I know, it's been going on for over 20 years. Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, as you know, Greater Manchester, he said he'd known about it since the mid-90s. So that's 35 years. And in that time, this has become, on an industrial scale, a business plan that works right across the UK. It is absolutely outrageous. And I am not, and I'm going to say this now, I don't agree with calling them the Asian gangs. You do not see Japanese men involved in this. You don't see Filipino men. You don't see Chinese men. I'm sorry, and I'm not racist. I am not racist, but it's time people took their head out of their backsides and started to realise predominantly these are Pakistani and Bangladeshi men. White men as well, but not predominantly. Now, if you try to get the figures from the Office of National Statistics to say, well, OK, when these people are sentenced, what proportion, what's the ethnicity? They won't tell you. They say that they don't keep the figures. Now, I was contacted. I've been all over Twitter. I was on media yesterday. I've been inundated with people. And I was contacted by a police officer who's been in the police for 30 years, name anonymous. He said they do know they just won't release it, because when we do any report on any crime, we have to tick the little ethnicity box. So they do know. So why don't they tell us?
Well, the
Because they
Conservative
know the
minister,
problem's huge.
the Conservative minister yesterday, the shadow minister, said that they did have data on this and they collected it, but the Labour government now don't want to publish it, or have chosen not to publish it yet.
But neither did the Tory government. No one wants to publish it. And, you know, I'm sick to death of trying to fight for our own cultural belief system and rights. These are our young girls, white girls, that are being treated as trash. And this all goes back. I'm not racist, but we've got to get realistic too. So for me, I lived in Portugal for 2 years, right? And when I went there, like every expat that goes out and comes in, you go there. I happened to learn the language, but, you know, I went there with my humour, my language, my belief system, my fashion, my food taste, and all the expats sit in little silos. And the same happens here, because you're comfortable among those people. There is something very sinister going on here, I think. About who are these faceless people that seem to want to eradicate cultures globally. They want to dumb everything down. I mean, I had a letter, I've had 2 or 3 letters from ladies today. One letter, and this is, you know, this is as we speak, she will not is frightened to let her 11-year-old, 13-year-old and 15-year-old walk along the streets of Preston because her daughters are being followed by Pakistani men. She's gone to the police, no one does anything about it. She's gone to her MP, nobody does anything about it. It's outrageous. I've got another lady here just now who wrote to me, who said, oh, I heard that Oldham has a very bad history. It needs a public inquiry. That was so corrupt. Again, it's now got another Muslim mayor. There were no Christmas decorations at Christmas because he was Muslim. You live in a Christian country. I'm sorry, but I will fight that because I am a Christian and I will fight that. Why can't we have
But Marlon,
nativity
here
trays
isn't
anymore?
the issue here? It's not all Muslims. Specifically, there is a cultural thing here about Pakistan and some element of Bangladesh, which seems very curious because you don't get sort of Saudi Arabian grooming gangs.
No, exactly.
You get Pakistani, which seems bizarre.
It's not,
but I suppose the question of race should be brought into it to the extent that it seems that these gangs themselves are the racist gangs.
Well,
because they're picking on people for the colour of their skin, white girls.
Exactly. I mean, I quite agree with you. To say the word Muslim is wrong, to be honest. You're quite right. It is Pakistani, it is Bangladeshi. Yes, there are some white men. But the trouble is, talking about people coming in with their culture, a lot of the Pakistani culture, I know this because I have an awful lot of women who are Pakistani that are in domestic abuse, honour-based violence, horrific, stays right under the radar. You've only got to look at that sweet little girl that was murdered by, her father. Awful. But, the uncle never said a word. He was there in that house for 6 months. He never said a word because he was respecting his brother's house. That's how it works. I've got lots of
Well, Marilyn, I'm sorry to cut you off mid-flow, but thank you so much for coming on. Marilyn Hawes, founder of Freedom from Abuse. Thank you for your time. I mean, should obviously say that sexual violence, domestic violence, all of these cases are not, just one ethnic group. But this particular case of grooming gangs have been predominantly Pakistani. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, don't go outside. Stock up on food and your medical supplies. Do we need to calm down over the winter weather? That's the NHS advice anyway. After your headlines with Tatiana.
Emily, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. The Health Secretary says the government are willing to work with tech giants who call out grooming gangs, whilst saying that Elon Musk's attack on the government's handling of the issue is misjudged and certainly misinformed. His comments come after Elon Musk attacked the decision of Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, who said it was for Oldham Council alone to decide whether to launch an investigation into alleged exploitation between 2011 and 2014. Musk reacted, saying she deserves prison, and accused the Prime Minister of inaction as Director of Public Prosecutions. Kemi Badenoch yesterday called for a national inquiry, saying justice for victims is long overdue. Meanwhile, Labour says it's working to implement recommendations from the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, pledging to strengthen the law to protect victims. West Streeting invited Musk to roll up his sleeves and work with us against rape gangs. The government has launched an independent commission to transform social care, but proposals for major reform may not be delivered for years. Health Secretary West Streeting is promising to finally grasp the nettle on social care reform, with an independent commission due to begin work in April. But the commission, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, is not due to publish its final report until 2028. And a 7-month-old baby has died after a car lost control on a dual carriageway in Lincolnshire near Grantham and hit a tree, with police investigating whether the crash was linked to icy conditions. A woman also travelling in the same car suffered serious injuries, and 2 other passengers were not seriously injured. An amber weather alert warning that snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions across much of England and Wales has been issued by the Met Office. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees overnight. The country has been hit by a blast of cold weather, with temperatures falling as low as -5 last night. Amber alerts are in place until the 8th of January. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there are multiple warnings in force for snow and ice. Likely we could see some travel disruption as a result of the rain, snow and strong winds this weekend. But to end the week, actually lots of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure stretches across the country, bringing cold conditions, yes, but plenty of sunshine. Can't rule out some showers, particularly around coasts of Northern Ireland, some northern coasts of Wales, also some coasts of Scotland too. These could be falling as snow, mainly across hills, though we may also see some flurries to lower levels too. But for the large majority of the country, there'll be plenty of sunshine. Feeling cold though, highs only reaching around 4 to 5 Celsius across the south. Then into the evening, once again, can't rule out some showers, particularly around coastal areas, but there'll still be plenty of clear spells, but that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, likely seeing some icy stretches across parts of the north and also some frost in places too. Similar across Northern Ireland, could see some ice here. Once again, some showers around coastal areas, showers also around coasts of Wales too. But for the large majority overnight, plenty of clear spells, so likely to see some frost and also some icy stretches, particularly in northern areas. And across the south too, once again, that's where we're going to see the majority of those clear spells, so likely to see some ice by the time we reach the morning. And once again, that widespread very sharp frost, but it's likely to be a fairly bright start to Saturday, but just once again feeling very chilly. For Saturday itself, once again, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. Still can't rule out any of those showers, particularly around northern coasts, still falling as sleet and snow, once again over hills, but also to lower levels too. And then we start to see a bit of a change from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain, they're starting to fall as sleet and snow across the high ground of parts of the southwest and southern parts of Wales, leading us to an unsettled weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. We've got the usual slowdown in traffic on the M90 northbound in Perth and Kinross at junction 12, the Broxton roundabout. The M1 southbound in West Yorkshire has been closed at junction 45, Leeds Cross Green for an accident. The diversion is via the slip roads. Long delays on the M6 southbound in the West Midlands, 2 lanes closed for an accident between junction 6 Spaghetti Junction and 5 Castle Bromwich. And nearby there's usual slowdown on the M5 northbound to join the M6 at junction 8. Long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire, 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs and an accident between junction 24 Potters Bar and 23 South Mims. And we're seeing queuing traffic on the M5 northbound in Devon in the roadworks at junction 27 for Tiverton. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Well, good afternoon, Britain.
Oh, go on.
I was just going to say it's 22:03, which means that, of course, it's 20 minutes until the one and only Martin Daubney.
Go on then, Martin. Tell us what's on the show.
Well, after the grooming gang scandal yesterday, you simply have to go on that again. I've got two fantastic guests. First one is a council whistleblower who spoke out about the lack of data on Asian men, on Pakistani men. He's in the Greater Manchester area on the Oldham historical case investigation. And for his pleasure, he received a visit from the police. So he sang out and himself became the target. He's on today's show. Second guest, I've got an amazing single mum from Cornwall, never been involved in politics in her entire life. Suddenly decided that enough is enough. She wants to organise what she's calling a Million Women March, and men want to go as well, about the grooming gang scandal, trying to get people to march on the streets in London to let the government know the public depth of discord there. So two amazing guests on that. Of course, it's the Reform Regional Conference. We'll have Lee Anderson on the show. So much to talk about. Elon Musk wading in. Just got my first retweet off him. I've got to turn my phone off on the grooming gang scandal. Yes. He's really getting involved in that. Tommy Robinson, all this stuff. Is it a lot of white noise that the party perhaps doesn't need? We're expecting a big announcement about this legal case with Kemi Badenoch, with perhaps of another defection. So we've got Lee Anderson on the show at 4 o'clock. And, of course, darts final tonight. We've got the legend Bobby George. A man with so much gold jewellery, he can barely lift his arm when he throws. But his politics are a bullseye as well, a solid Brexiteer. So that's all coming 3 till 6.
I would never have guessed that a famous darts player is a Brexiteer. you can't guess these things, can you?
Well, you don't have woke darts players.
No, you don't really. You don't really.
Cheers, Martin. It sounds fantastic. We'll be staying tuned, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But, of course, it's a new year and a new wave of amber weather warnings for snow and ice. They've been issued by the Met Office across the UK today.
Yeah, so it's expected to fall to as low as -8 degrees this weekend, and Brits are being warned against leaving the house in the morning and the evening, and also told to stock up on food and medicine.
Well, is this an appropriate response to winter weather? Or have we all gone a bit soft? Joining us now is the Met Office senior presenter, Alex Deakin. Alex, firstly, what is an amber weather warning? When are these issued?
Well, we issued them this morning. We've had a yellow warning in place since Wednesday for the snow coming in at the weekend. So with yellow, amber and red, they're the different tiers of weather warning. So an amber warning means we're more confident that there will be more significant disruption compared to a yellow warning. And then you get to the red, which are pretty rare. And that means there's a real threat to life. But amber are pretty serious. We don't issue them lightly. And we have, potentially for some heavy snow coming in during the course of the weekend across parts of northern England, the Midlands and Wales especially. Not just snow either, something called freezing rain, which we're likely to see in some places.
I just got a chill.
Sorry, isn't freezing rain just hailstones, or am I being facetious?
Ooh, no. Completely different meteorological phenomenon. Freezing rain is actually when you get liquid rain that falls through an area where the temperature is below freezing, but it stays as liquid. And it hits the ground and then it turns instantly to ice. Quite rare, actually, in the UK to get proper freezing rain. And it's treacherous because it does form an ice rink almost instantaneously. It's very, very dangerous indeed.
It's making me feel cold. I've just had a chill down my spine. Someone got in touch a little bit earlier. One of our viewers got in touch to say it's -15 in Sweden. And he said, everyone just goes about their business as normal. But he did also say that it doesn't feel as cold as it would in this country. Is it true that some countries sort of feel the cold differently, that it's different?
Yeah, I mean, the feel of the weather is often dependent on how moist the air is as well. We're surrounded by water, so that adds to the moisture. The wind is also a factor as well. And it's also what you're used to. -15 in Sweden is pretty common, so they get that most winters. We don't get heavy snowfall as frequently as we used to. It's been a very mild December, so this cold spell, which is going to last quite a while, it is reasonably unusual, certainly compared to recent winters, and it's a bit of a shock to the system when it's kind of the first proper one of the winter too. So it's all about being adaptive and reactive, and the Met Office warnings are based on impacts and what impacts they're likely to cause. It's not just purely about temperatures, how much snow we're going to see. It's about when we see them, what people have been used to, and that kind of thing. You have to factor all these things in. It's a very complicated business that our chief meteorologists work upon, and it's based on impacts, not just the numbers. numbers.
And I suppose that impact assessment can also include, frankly, what we're capable of dealing with. In Sweden, they might have all of the snow ploughs at the ready, the grit is always by the sides of the roads there. They get snow all the blooming time, whereas if it only comes once or twice a year here, we don't have the facilities at the ready.
Hit the nail on the head. That is exactly it. If it's something we don't see very often. I remember seeing a centimetre of snow in Mexico a few years ago, and that caused outrageous amounts of problems there because they never see snowfall. So even just a centimetre caused problems in Mexico. And yeah, it's about what you're used to, obviously, if you can't cope with it. And there's no point of having snow ploughs on the end of every road because we just wouldn't use them that often. So yeah, it's about that adaptability and it's about being prepared. And that's why our warnings are impact-based, not just on the numbers.
OK, Alex Deacon, thank you very much indeed. Now, listening to all of the snow, the freezing rain in particular got me. You might be in search for some winter sun. So here's the forecast for some of the top Euro holiday destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It does look a lot warmer in some of those parts of the world rather than here this weekend. But there's plenty more coming on today's show. Indeed, 17-year-old superstar Luke the Nuke Littler could become the youngest ever darts world champion this very night. We're going to be speaking to legendary darts referee, Mr. 180 himself, Russ Bray. That's in just a moment.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
On the 8th of October at Battersea Arts Centre, a new orchestra launched its inaugural season. The orchestra, which is named Chromatica, is formed of some of the best young musicians in Britain. They're due to perform in traditional venues and in community spaces. The aim is to bring their youth and dynamism to a wide repertoire of music. Predominantly, they'll work with emerging conductors who will have the chance to shape the orchestra and its repertoire. To share her experiences of bringing the ensemble together, I'm joined by the violinist and Chromatica orchestra lead, Maren Bosma. To what extent is this novel? To what extent is this new ground?
Well, new ground, it is new ground in a sense that this is a completely new orchestra. Obviously, in the current sort of cultural climate, it's not really easy to set up a new orchestra. And so in that sense, it's a novelty for us to kind of try and carve out our space in the current climate of musical orchestras and musicians in Britain.
Yes, I mean, it's quite odd in a way to think of a new orchestra because the ones that we have tend to be struggling and numbers indeed have been reduced. I used to be associated with an orchestra which unfortunately went under. You've got some private backing for this.
Yeah.
Why do you think the private backers have been willing to give you support? What is it that they see as your unique selling proposition?
Well, Chromatica Orchestra essentially is an early career orchestra. So we're formed of all sort of top musicians who've graduated in, say, the last sort of 5 to 10 years. Because everyone is of that generation, there is a sort of enthusiasm and dynamism that we bring to the stage I think is quite unique. The orchestra's mission, it's really focused on creating opportunities for young emerging musicians.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 3, and the darts superstar Luke Littler could become the youngest ever world champion as he faces three-time champion Michael van Gerwen tonight.
And he's the favourite, isn't he? The 17-year-old. He was runner-up last year, but he's full of confidence heading into this final. Can he do it?
Well, who better to ask than legendary darts referee, Mr. 180 himself, Russ Bray. Russ, thanks so much for being with us here on Good Afternoon Britain. Real pleasure. My goodness me, this is a big, big moment for Luke Littler.
Yeah, lovely to be on the show. Thank you very much. Yeah, massive. It is huge for the lad. I mean, he's 17 years of age. He's had the world on his shoulders for the last year. The amount of pressure that he's been under and how he's coped with it has been amazing. It really has been incredible, and he's got a great chance of actually, becoming the youngest world champion that we've had.
Now, you've worked with, I don't know how many darts players in your time. Talking about the pressure, I mean, the amount of media attention Luke Littler had from everything from his private life to obviously his playing of the sport. How does that affect, a young player like that?
Well, I think the beauty is because he's 17, and because he is just a young kid, we forget the fact that he is a kid. He plays on his Xbox or his Nintendo or whatever the thing is he does. So I think a lot of the pressure is taken away from that. He doesn't have other pressures, like we do in general life as you get as an adult when you're married and things like that, running your car, running your home. He doesn't have that style of pressure. So, he can sort of release it a little bit. And I've got to be honest with you, when I saw the amount of publicity and the pressure that he was under, I wasn't sure whether he'd actually be able to crack under that. But I'll tell you what, he has, it's just been amazing. The kid's just been amazing. He really is a phenomenal one-off.
No, is it extraordinary, actually, how many more people are being brought into the sport simply through the sort of sensational sort of media circus around all of this? Do you expect more people are going to be watching it tonight?
Yeah, not half. I do. I mean, last year was a record viewing for the darts for us on Sky, and I kid you not, I'm expecting it to go even bigger now. I'm very lucky. I travelled to all four corners of the globe with the darts, and everyone talks about Luke Littler this year. Everybody, and you look at the audience now. Everyone is that much younger. You've got kids in there, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age with their little Littler shirts on or their Aspinall shirts on, and he's just blown the sport away massively. And the interest now throughout the world is absolutely incredible.
And how much pressure is there on the referee?
Hey, there's enough. There's enough. I mean, the boys up there, they're more than capable. But, as I say, they'll be brilliant. They'll be part of the show as well. And they're a little bit of pressure, but they'll cope with that.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Well, Mr. 180, Russ Bray, thanks so much for joining us, talking through what will be a spectacular event tonight.
I think being a referee must be very stressful. I mean, you call something wrong, half of the crowd hate you. If you call something right, half of the crowd hate you.
It's true.
I mean, it's how it goes, isn't it?
Toughest
very
job.
Important job. I don't know if you have VAR in the darts.
You're testing my knowledge now, I've got to be honest. You're really testing my knowledge.
I'd like to, go to the darts. Why not?
Yeah, what would you dress up as? Because we sort of...
A hot dog.
A hot dog?
Yeah, that's the first thing that came into my head.
No, I did. Do you know what? I'm slightly taken aback by that. That's fantastic. We'll have to find you a costume. But of course, thank you for watching.
You would go as a penguin after your performance.
Oh, naturally. But thanks for watching Good Afternoon Britain this afternoon. We're back, of course, on Monday at midday. But up next, it's Martin Daubney. Don't go anywhere.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period, and as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas likely to see a sharp frost and also